I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll call our meeting to order. The first order of business would be a public hearing on Coates Point involving septic issues and the possibility of expanding our sewer district, our sewer system. If they are interested in that option, we can discuss it at the same time. But basically, it's discuss the information that you received by letter from the town in regards to the Department of Health recognizing that there are failed septic systems in the area. We are going to be conducting dye tests as soon as we have accumulated all the dye that we need. We had a discussion last Saturday at Coates Point, which I thought was very productive. There is an engineer on his way here. I told you we would have one here. He will be here, I'm presuming. I spoke with him not long ago. If there's any other questions that have come up that I can answer for you now before he gets here, don't be afraid to ask. If anyone wants to speak, I would ask them to stand and state their name, so we have your name for the record. Anybody? Or we can wait for Mr. Hodson. He'll be the star of the show tonight. We also have our attorney here, so if there's any legal questions that you might have, we might be able to help with some of those. I can tell you that Mr. Dow does have property that's involved in Coates Point, and he was notified by mail, the same as everyone else. Okay, I think the only thing we're really lacking for discussion with the engineer not being here, the ballpark cost estimates that we could try and give you. We have been up and looked at the prospective routes. Obviously, the one that was discussed Saturday, going along the east side of Baldwin Road, down over the bank, and then up the road to the manhole at the end, would, in most instances, be preferred to any other route you could come up with. It's distance-wise, it's probably the shortest. Technically, it's probably the less difficult. There are several ways to do it. You could do it with straight excavation, or you could do it with directional drilling. There was a good deal of Black Point Road that was done with directional drilling. It saves, the initial cost of the drilling is a bit more expensive than straight excavation, but it saves all the backfilling and restoration work that you would wind up with if you did straight excavation. So, help me, Todd.
Billy, question for you. This is kind of a untapped area that we're going into, because Coates Point was given a grandfather status by Adirondack Park when we were originally formed. And in doing that, we have certain things that we do periodically, pump out our tanks as they're requested, because we're seasonal operations, not full-time, with the exception of one person that resides there. With that being said, in some instances, it seems as though maintenance improvement can still be done on a grandfather system. I'll take that one.
In what regards?
In regards that if you feel that an additional 10 or 20 feet of leach field should be added to the existing field, that would be maintenance improvement, or replace an existing 10 or 20 feet that needs repair.
You want,
I'll take that one.
okay.
First, with regard to the APA, probably should clarify one thing, and it's kind of a lurking issue for all of you that own in there. You're not grandfathered. What happened was the original permit for Coates Point was never filed. And so the APA, I don't know if the property owner's in here, but the APA went to enforce that permit against the property owner. And the property owner's attorney, being very good and very well known, Dick Bartlett, defended her on that action and knew that the permit had never been filed. And with the APA, a permit that's never been filed expires. So what you have now is an issue where you're in a development with an expired APA permit. So the APA is just sitting there. Okay, there's been correspondence and we've been copied on them. They have kind of taken a tack of late that violations that have been sitting for more than 10 years or before 2000, they are a little bit more relaxed about. So that I would tend to agree with you. But to say that your grandfather would not be the case.
That was what we were told.
Yeah, I don't know who told you that, but.
They did. They said they were going to grandfathers, and then they didn't file the report.
Well, here's the next part. No, they won't file anything. What's going to happen is when you go to do any work like that, to update your septic or things like that, you're going to need a permit. That's going to be a new use that's going to kick up the APA. So that's the part they won't tell you or that won't come up in a conversation. But I'll tell you I've been on your side of the fence too, in municipalities that I don't represent, and that's what happens. They will lie in wait and wait for you to apply for that permit. Even if you went to DOH to get the permit for septic, it's going to trigger you got the letter, referral over to the APA, which will trigger a permit from the APA. So there's no real easy out with the APA. With regard to the septic, really at this point, it's incumbent on the owners to come up with whatever plan. The supervisor was just throwing out options to you. But this, to be clear, is an enforcement action. The public hearing here is the first step as the town board sitting as the local board of health to kind of direct you to do something. If it continues to fail, and we've got the Department of Health stuff, and I know we tried to work last summer with the prior town board, we tried to bring this thing to some sort of resolution, but if the results of the dye tests and things reveal some more failure, then the town board kind of has to do something. We can't just not do something. So if the idea of connecting to the system or having a new septic system, kind of at this point is in your ballpark, but if it doesn't get resolved, then, similar to what we deal with directives from the EPA, Department of Health, with water, sewer, things like that, that's the same kind of directive that would come from the board. Because certainly with, like George being right there, in our water intake, we can't have an open source of sanitary effluent flowing anywhere near the water source or even the lake. And that, what we're talking about here, doesn't deal with DEC or anybody should that stuff hit the lake. If that happened, things happen a little bit quicker in terms of orders coming out to shut your water off, certificates of occupancy and things like that. So those are kind of bigger issues that lurk if it doesn't get resolved. So what the supervisor, we talked with Todd and things, and try to come up with some options here that you guys can have, because I think the preliminary info that we've gotten, to jump a little bit, is that they're not sure that there's land enough that would perk properly and allow you to update for enough capacity that you need out there. And that's probably where the discussion would head, but that's, when you get into extending laterals and things, you can do that for bedrooms and things like that, but when you've got a failing system, Todd can correct me if I'm wrong, that kind of takes some of those options off the table, because it's already failing.
One other thing I'd point out is I received a letter today, it's dated July 8th, 2014, from the Adirondack Park Agency. It describes the legal scuffle that took place a few years back, and the fact that the subdivision itself was grandfathered in. However, any improvement work, whether it be septic, building, whatever, is not. And it would fall under today's standards, and they make reference site constraints associated with Coates Point subdivision, including existing development patterns, slopes, lack of suitable soils, and nearby shoreline limit the areas available for on-site wastewater treatment. In general, the agency encourages connection of properties with site constraints to municipal wastewater treatment and collection systems. That's where they're going to try and, they're informing you with this letter that that's the direction they are going to encourage you to go in. You can work at that any way you want. Yes, sir.
Stan House. Regarding that ADA permit,
Yes.
do you know when it was nullified?
APA permits automatically expire if they're not filed within either 60 days or 90 days. I always
60 days.
60 days. It's on the back of every APA document.
It's in the letter. It actually expired 60 days from the date it was issued.
Because,
60.
I mean, I've been president association for 15 years, and I've been president for that. I never got anything from the APA saying that that was nullified.
What was your name?
Stan House.
Oh, there's a Dawn and Dan House. 98 North Lane?
Yeah, we're just part of the
Okay.
association.
Yeah, because I have a letter from the APA from last October on similar discussion that Bill got today.
Yeah. My experience has been the APA, when they make a mistake or are in error, it's worse than Fonzie having to say, I was wrong. They don't advertise it or even notify
I never got it.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
the parties involved in some cases.
An expiration of a permit, they wouldn't send a letter. Because it's the property owner's obligation to file.
Yeah.
So they don't,
APA's obligation.
Yeah,
because some people would abandon permits and, change their minds. So
yeah.
I can't remember them ever sending a letter saying, hey, your permit's about to expire. And that would have been back in 1985. So that was the original permit that was filed.
Way back then.
80.
Yeah. Yeah.
What date?
Oh,
September 3rd, 1986, the permit was issued. It would have expired 60 days from this day of the issuance because it was never filed.
yeah.
What did the permit state?
I don't have it. I can tell you the number. It was P85-29. You can get a copy of that
I have it.
permit, but, what it stated, I'm sure it had the property descriptions for the individual lots.
It's just for the
And,
subdivision.
any pertinent information to go along with the subdivision, where the septics were going to locate, proposed building sites. It's,
I'm West Judd, by the way, I'm sorry.
okay.
Basically, with the Coach Point, it was already created, so it wasn't a new, it was an existing subdivision that was just being permitted to exist as a legal entity, maybe, I don't know the correct terminology, but it already existed. All the buildings were built, the use of the land was already there, it was just a matter of defining the boundaries per se. So it wasn't a total new land. I'm not sure.
Well, I can't, I can only guess at how the park agency handled that. And a couple of developments that I worked on similar to that. The property lines were probably not well-defined.
Here's what it was, Bill. I can tell you.
Okay?
More to his point, they talked about 12 existing structures on the project site were originally constructed and owned by members or relatives of members of the newly created association. That was back in '85 when Coates Point Association was created. Of the newly created association around 1900 to 1920. The original landowner retained title to the property and charged an annual rental fee to pay property taxes. Association member owned and paid taxes on the structures only, with the original landowner owning the underlying fee of the property. The purpose of the subdivision is to create land ownership for each member's structure and on-site services, and to establish the common ownership of common property, Lot 12, and the access road by the association. So there's another one
That's-
on Lake Shore down by Bolton. It's a
Other
similar
stuff,
situation.
Rogers Rock Club,
Yeah, right.
Coast Point. There were a couple over on Black Point side, 2 down at Gull Bay that I'm aware of. Glen Burnie had a site very similar to that. Hague has had 2 or 3. The Cape Cod Villages and a couple of other areas south of that. Another one at Savate Point.
But after the agreement was reached with the APA, because they were on site,
Right,
and they looked at everything, and
Yes.
saw what was happening, and they
Yes.
followed along.
yes.
And everything, after everything was agreed upon, and a written agreement was made up between the APA, you're saying then a newly formed association then had to further apply for a permit, even though all the agreement was written and the document was produced by the APA granting the permission to do this. There was then the need to get a permit beyond that. Is that what I'm
Permit
hearing?
was issued, but it was never filed, right?
The permit was issued, but it was never filed.
Whose responsibility is that?
The property owners.
The association, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I know you've got some questions for Mr. Hodson. This is Todd Hodson from AES Engineering out of Plattsburgh. He's young. Don't hurt him. But he's very confident in what he does.
Well, the unfortunate, Bill Arthur, the unfortunate thing is you're from Plattsburgh, which is Clinton County, which I happen to reside in. And holy shit. What that means is that the Board of Health has to approve wells and septic tanks, systems in order to get mortgages, and Board of Health won't do it. You as an engineer is frustrated, the homeowner can't get a loan, and you're gonna come down and help us here? Okay, I'll sit back down.
Todd's here to try and help if we've had discussions over routes, where to run this thing. I know Mr. Allen last year looked at a proposal to take it up and across Baldwin Road and go down the west side of Baldwin Road and then tie into the manhole down at the top of Steamboat Landing. As I told you last week, in my experience, I look at it a little differently maybe. I think it would be, I was up there today, as a matter of fact, and I went into Steamboat Landing in addition to the Point property. And to me, it is a much simpler process to directional drill from the tip of Coates Point around the lake shore and then up to the existing manhole. That's not a huge piece of work to accomplish. You're going to have individual laterals to get there. You could take every one of your septics, failing or not, get them into the system and be done with them. Never have to worry about them. You might have a pump failure. You got one spot to go to fix a pump and take it out. You wouldn't all need pumps. I believe everyone could gravity feed back to it. I'm probably stealing a lot of Todd's thunder, but I spent my life working in the field, and I got a pretty good idea of what it would take to put this together for you. And the other item that we talked about was financing for it, and I know personally, politically, any way you want to look at it, you can save a lot of money by joining together, building this system with a private contractor according to specifications. I mean, you build it to the same specifications the town would build it to. You'll save a third or more in cost if you do it yourselves and then donate it to the town, dedicate it to the town. You're up.
Want me to show it up on the screen?
We could, if you'd like, would you like to see our proposal where we're talking about all it? Where we think it would work best for you? If you're gonna work, you know, if you're gonna go forward with this and work with an engineer, and quite frankly, my experience tells me that the same thing the park agency is saying here, with the type of soils you have, the fact that we already have identified some areas of concern, we're not gonna find less area concerns, we're gonna find more. And that's, you know, that's not gloom and doom, it's just, you know, the facts are the facts, you gotta. Make sure he does it. Last time he did this, he unplugged your camera.
Lights still on.
Doesn't seem to want to.
He changes that back, he's gonna look really good.
Walter said son, Tom Hopkins, are they also going to be testing along the rest of Harts Bay and continuing totally down Baldwin, or is it just our point?
Right now,
It's all based on the sand.
right now, it's your point. There was a complaint issued last summer. Don't know who made the complaint. I'm not familiar with how all that went down, but it was, the Department of Health was brought in at that time, and they went out and walked the ground and found evidence of effluent on top of the ground. That triggered the town's action for tonight. It should have been triggered last year. It didn't happen. I can't tell you why it didn't happen. Okay, but it's effluent on top of the ground right near our water intake.
Oh, yeah, no,
Obviously,
I'm not questioning
you know.
why. It was, are we going to be continuing the testing solely down into Harts Bay?
If they're-
It's all based on the same, you know, you said the reason that
We don't-
certain people that haven't had effluent on top of the ground are getting tested is because it's very similar soil makeup and very similar leach fields. Well, that would pretty much include everyone down Baldwin.
I don't disagree with that. The reason we're on Coates Point is because the complaint was on Coates Point. Okay? The other property owners going down through, if anybody goes for a walk and they find something suspicious, obviously we would test, wherever it is. And I know there's some people from Harts Bay here tonight. They came to the town several years ago and expressed an interest, and I talked to a couple of them to see if they might still have an interest. It would be, to my way of thinking, it would be logical that if Coates Point is gonna make a move to come into the sewer, it ought to go the rest of the way around Harts Bay.
Would that be kind of something that we'd be required to do, is possibly ask around down Harts Bay to see if
That would be-
one person would be willing to?
That would be exactly what you would want to do. Generate some interest out there, go door to door, whatever. If anyone has any questions about it, they can call here. That's fine. We'll be happy to talk with them. But
I got Brian Best. I want to feed off of his. Once Coles Point builds their sewer system all the way up and everybody's spread in, and then you do target someone in Harts Bay and they need to add on,
yes,
they've already done 1,000 feet of sewer line and paid for it. Are the other property owners going to reimburse someone who paid for that?
They will be, if they hook into the Coates Point line, they will be assessed a portion of the Coates Point debt. Well, there won't, how will that work?
Won't be no retro.
They'll have to work a deal with the Coates Point Association
No, we would own it.
or the district.
Yeah, and his question is a good one, and to answer him, it would be,
So then if we don't, if they don't donate it and then keep it, do they charge the additional people for the usage of that footage?
Coates Point?
Yeah.
Well,
Then they become a transportation.
exactly. What you would have to do is, there's one of two ways to have a community septic system, okay? And how this ever got this way is probably a series of errors. And it happens a lot, so don't think you're alone. But when you go to create something like this in 2014, a community septic system, or to hook up to the town, you do it one of two ways. You form a district or a district extension, which is what the supervisor was talking about. You would put it in yourselves and then petition to dedicate it to the town. They would extend the district out to you. That's one way. Or you can have what some people might call a private district, which is really a transportation corporation. And what that is believe it or not, it's like a private association. You actually have to come to the town board because of the enactment statutes. You have to ask for permission to have a transportation corporation, because what happens is if that transportation corporation ever failed, meaning somebody stopped maintaining something, then the town by law has to step in and take it over. So there's bonding requirements and things like that. We don't really see a lot of transportation corporations up north. It's really big down Orange County towards the city that way, with water systems mainly. But that is an option to be private, and then you would control who connects to your line. But I would tell you, with my experience would be with the numbers that you've got, I think the benefit of keeping the line would be outweighed by the cost of having a transportation corporation. Now, that said, what we can do, we don't need to get into discussing it tonight. I think you got to get some data, see who wants to be in. But we could work out a reserved capacity agreement. I'm doing this down in Saratoga County right now, where the developer is putting in a water line, and they have reserved the capacity in that water line to themselves, basically doing that. So that if somebody came along and wanted to tie into their water line, because they're paying to form the district and they're paying to put the water line in, then they're going to recoup some amount to get in. And what we've done there is, I worked with the developer on that one, we've negotiated a flat fee. So that if a resident wanted to get in, it's X dollars per unit to tie in. So the association could reserve the capacity in the line to allow someone else to tie in. Okay. That's how we would end up.
So you can get your money out of it. Yes, sir.
Jim Major. A couple of years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, they attempted to get a consensus together to put in a sewer line. And we were able to go down and get agreement, essentially most agreeing close to the Cook's property, because the Cooks did not want to join it. But what we found was that, and our line would have been trenched or underground drilling along the road. The engineers decided that was the best way, not going down along the shoreline, but going along by the roadside. And then we would all pump up to it. And our system was, and I don't know how this would affect Coates Point if we were to join together, but our system was very expensive. It was $1,200 per home per year for 30 years. So, a family that had 2 homes on the property, for example, would have been $2,400 a year. And that kind of shut down the group's willingness to go ahead with it.
And that was based on the town putting it in versus yourselves, right?
Yeah, we weren't putting it in ourselves. This was with low interest loans. Some of those properties are stretched out is the problem. And as you're going along the road, you're running these trunk lines that are pretty long, because Walden Road at that point is, depending upon the property, anywhere from 200 to 400 feet from the lake. So if you have a home down near the lake, you're
You're getting long laterals.
On the road, but you're trenching down to the house.
Who designed that?
I don't know.
Was that part of the map plan report that was done back in 2003, 2004? Somewhere back in there?
I really don't know. John Whiteley was the guy leading the charge on the project. And we had a number of meetings and, I think everybody wanted to do it for the sake of the lake, but then when it came to this 30-year charge at $1,200 a piece, and also the New York State felt it was high. And I think above $800 a year, they required that they do a study of everybody's income, which they did, to make sure that it was affordable. So it was a big deal.
All right.
Joe Davidson, at the meeting last week, before we even get into the engineering part of it, did the town board try to get any EPA funds or the rural community funds for communities less than 10,000 people? There are grants available that's going on in the capital district right now in two small lakes in our area. And this is the queen of the lakes. This should have first priority. And the lake is owned by the state of New York. And we live on fixed incomes when we retired years ago. So the state should have some grants, or they should be brought into this, and we should get it. So as the gentleman said, $600 and some dollars, I think the state plugged back in '04. Probably more than that, early on that. I think, we can come down to town board to see if we can get some grants, make some applications, and they even have funding to pay the engineer to do the survey. So that would be in everyone's, the town's favor, and our favor.
We're aware of a good deal of that.
Oh, I know you mentioned it, but I just want to bring it to light that even before we get into the engineering aspect, it might be better to have the funding being applied for. I know the other side of Lake Wallen took 50 years. We've been on that for 50 years. Finally, the funding come available, and several times I talked to people in Albany and tell them this is the queen of the lakes. We should not be the first priority. Because it is drinking water.
That's well put. The issue is that if the town does the work, we have to apply to all, we have to adhere to all the applicable construction laws and rules that go along with state-funded or federally funded work, which inflates the cost significantly.
Let me speak a little bit.
Go ahead, Don. If I could hold you up for just a minute, sir, we're going to let the engineer describe a little bit of what we're looking at and what we suggest.
To put a little bit more information out there, some of the questions that you had regarding funding.
Right.
You have to have an entity in order to apply for those funds. So it's whether the district or Macklin or the Florida district comes first, really before those applications can really go out for the town to actually have the legal standing to be taken seriously for those applications.
Good point.
So
we have no legal standing.
That's
The
right.
town has a legal standing, and they could represent us in whatever area it is, and they've got legal advice. Just gave us a big synopsis of what happens to other areas.
Yeah,
This is going on around the lake. Glen Burnie, Lake George Mirror, some very good information on all the other general areas of the lake. The state is trying to push it onto the little homeowner, when in fact, we all pay state taxes, and we should be getting a little reimbursement coming this way, And sanitary is more important than drinking water. You gotta have the sanitary.
So that's sure, but I guess the question gets answered at that Macklin report stage, whether it's worth going out and seeking those grant funds, or as Bill has alluded to, sometimes it's cheaper when it's done privately, because with those grant funds comes wage rate, Davis Bacon, wage rates, and
I understand. I used to work for the state and retired. They did it for everybody downstream to the town. And why are we the test group that really basically we can't afford to take it that long down like that?
Excuse me.
Forced to sell our property.
Well, the reason that a lot of that stuff hasn't been done, it's kind of what Todd was alluding to, is cart before the horse. Last summer, we had the reports from the Department of Health, septic failures and things like that. I think the gentleman's name was Mr. Allen, right?
Gilmore.
Yeah, he was proposing to put in a system so that he could get his house on to go forward.
Right.
And I think somebody from the town had approached some owners in Coates Point, knowing that we had some failures here, kind of informally to say, hey, there's an opportunity here for people to get together to join on this system and also alleviate possibly an enforcement action, which again is what this is tonight. And the response that we got back last year was, no, our septic system's okay, we're not going to do anything right now. I think it was a cost issue. That was the message that was given back to the town. So to answer your question, why hasn't any of this been done? The answer to that is because the response that the town got back last fall was, you know, we're fine. Our septic's fine. We're not really going to fix this. And I think it's a seasonal issue. You know, people go away for
We're
winter.
here 6 months.
Yeah, so cabins aren't used, things like that. And the septic system drops down, it's probably fine, and then in the summertime it picks back up and you have these problems. But so that's why, how come we're here and it hasn't gotten that far, is the response that came back was kind of, we don't really think there's a problem, we're not going to do anything. So then we had to send the notices out, start the enforcement side, and the local board of health to say that this really needs to be fixed. So that's why the purpose of the meeting is to gauge from, because again, it's incumbent on the owners to come to the town and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. That's the town, the first interest is cooperation, right? We don't want to, just like we don't want orders from the Department of Health or EPA coming down to the town because it gets expensive. We're not really that interested in setting out an order to you guys saying, you know, you got 30 days to come up with a plan because your septic system is failing. You don't want that either, because then we have to act. So the purpose tonight is, what are you interested in? Are you interested in being in the district? Are you going to talk to an engineer to see if you can put in a new septic system? Like we've said, that, you know, we're not bent in any direction, I think, as the town. The idea is to get that information out there and say, someone needs to have a plan here so that this can get fixed. And I think the town, like supervisor said, is certainly willing to work with you, and if it's getting together a map plan report, like Todd said, so that you can apply for grants. Certainly with the Transportation Corporation, that's off the table. Some do get them, but it's certainly a heck of a lot harder to get that kind of funding when you are a private transportation corporation. So certainly, yes, being a district or heading in the direction of a district, which would be map plan report, gets you the legitimacy that these agencies look for to move. The other side of it is, if the funding sources keep going the way they've been like the last 3 years, it's the consolidated funding application process, the CFA, probably isn't going to come up until next year again, unless they did a fall round with an award. I haven't heard that they're going to do it. With the election coming to the governor, who knows what's going to happen this year. But so that's really why we're here, is on that directive from the local board of health, because the response that came back after the failure was identified really wasn't acceptable. So we have to kind of get together now and see what we can do to get that fixed.
Is it possible we could hear this gentleman's presentation? We don't know enough to ask, at least I feel we don't know enough to ask some intelligent questions on things until he gives us an overview of all of the different things that are possible, and then possibly we could have questions with that. But I'd like to hear this gentleman's presentation.
Okay, well, let me just back up and say this. It really does start with a map plan report and have four proper plans. There is a grant opportunity through the CFA, as Matt alluded to, that helps to cover some of those engineering reports or plans. That grant goes up to, I think, about $30,000. That could be applied for, but is probably not going to even be reviewed by Environmental Facilities Corporation until maybe February. We won't get an announcement on that until much later. So these things take lots of time, as did Black Point Road, which was referred to a while back. But first, we need to know the interest. But let me just review the project area real quick. That's the area in green right here, if you can see it on the screen, Coates Point. If you look just off to the right here, that's the town's water filtration plant. So you can see it's very, very close. That intake comes out right about in this area here. The general current of the lake is this way to the Wilshire River. So the town has a common interest here in correcting the problem. You know, it's to everybody's benefit, for you guys and for the town to protect the queen of American lakes and the town's drinking water source. So this area right here has been just selected of parcels that have some impact and those that are of an area of concern for which that would either come out to the street or along the lake. And if you look just north, this is one of the other towns adjoining districts, the Baldwin Road Sewer District, for which the manhole of connection for the gravity side of it is way up here, probably about a little over 1,000 feet away. That's quite a long distance.
Did you drive out today, Tom?
I didn't get a chance to go in.
Okay, there's a manhole right at the top, right there.
Right there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether that's tied to the gravity side or whether that's tied
To the
as a
force side?
clean out to the force main. So I got to get that verified by Tracy.
The elevation to the eye
Yes.
looks like that would tie to
I
the
would say it
gravity.
would have to be gravity. And
I would
I know
think-
they extended that out after the Baldwin Road project took place. So that would half the distance down to like 700 feet down the road,
Yeah.
which would make that much more cost effective. So somebody before you ended up extending that line.
My recollection is that it was anticipation when that line was being put in.
I believe that's
That
correct.
Harvey Coates Point would be
Yes.
needing it, so we brought right down to that fourth.
Yes, the only thing that I have for record plans is just this dot right in here, but I know this resident right here is tied in, for which the force main's actually off on this side. It's a 2-inch force main that serves down on Steamboat Landing. But that would be to a great advantage because it would increase the cost for tying in. Again, a benefit that was installed, which would help you. So the idea would be one option would be to install a force main along the road, a directional drill, open cut. There's some investigating work, obviously, that would need to take place. That's the purpose of that, is to develop the most cost-effective option to connect into the public infrastructure. From that point, you could determine whether or not it was worthy of applying for future funds. Whether you went to the Environmental Facilities Corporation or any other funding agency that's out there, certainly protection of water quality, like George, is of prime importance to the state because of the regulations around Lake George. There are other construction options, but where it starts, I guess, is interest. And the more people that become involved, the more people that are positioned down for a district, the overall lower cost typically that you have, unless it gets very, very spread out. As one gentleman indicated earlier with the Harts Bay, once those residences get spread out enough, that cost may be driven up and you reach maybe a cost-effective point where it just isn't feasible going further. But we need to have that interest first to be able to even pull those numbers together. There's no sense in even doing that math or going that far if there isn't an interest in solving this water quality problem, both on the town's behalf and on yours.
But the engineering has been done for Hart Bench, so that can probably be looked at to see pretty easily whether we tie in
Yes.
with this without driving the cost up. I suspect, although I hate to say this, that to drive the cost up because the properties get bigger as you go down Boulder Road.
Right.
So you get a longer stretch to go per property. I think we only had 22 people in the district, we were 74.
And then the question comes after a map plan report is done. It may be more cost advantageous to do it privately, but I don't think that you can answer that question until you at least know.
Could you tell us then what privately means? What's our liability, what's our cost per person? How do you assess all this? Could you go through some of that so we have some understanding of what you're talking about?
Just to give you a very brief overview of it, you're going to pay potentially 30% more to have work done publicly grant funded because of the regulations that they make you go through. Now, I'm not saying it's going to cost you 30% more because oftentimes you have zero interest loans that help to offset that overall cost, so the cost for you may not be that much higher. I'm just talking about pure construction here. You just have to, in the map plan report, weigh whether that 30% additional cost is going to, if the zero interest loan is going to offset that 30%, or if there's a grant component, Baldwin Road actually, or Black Point Road is a good example of that. They filed that map plan report, applied to EFC, they received grant funds and zero interest loan funds.
Who did it? I mean, is it associated?
No,
District.
the town did.
The town did it.
The town was able to apply on behalf of that district because they formed the fund.
Who's the district?
The Baldwin Road District.
Black Point.
Black Point District, consisting of how many people?
There's 250, there's 250 connections.
250 people.
Yes.
Do they all pay equally?
Yes, which is another township adjacent there, they pay a little bit different rate just because it's a different township and they had a different financing package.
No. Do they pay equally, or do they assess different amounts for property frontage or
No,
size
they
of
pay
lot?
equally. It's
They pay equally. Who collects the money?
The town.
The town collects the money.
The town collects all the money.
Yes.
And what happens if a person doesn't pay?
That gets assessed on.
It's a lien against your property. Same as not paying your
But
taxes.
does it come back to the other people then to make up the difference on that?
No,
Never does.
no.
County treasurer reimburses the town, gets re-levied and attached to the person's tax bill.
I know you can't speak to it, but what about operation and maintenance? We're only seasonal cottages here.
That's part of your bill.
Have one, are you gonna be prorated? And the year-round residents pay more, or, you couldn't
No.
put the one putting the input into the treatment plant.
A lot of people who are seasonal residents.
You're talking 13 units, and only one is year-round.
I mean, for instance, on the Black Point Road School District, I don't believe there's any differentiation between seasonal and
There isn't. And the O and M is treated as a separate
Yeah.
portion of the bill.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that at home, we pay per the gallons that we use for the 6 months that we're there.
Mhm.
They base it on a water meter.
It's based on your water meter. We don't-
Lake, so the town has nothing to.
Right, and we don't have a meter.
Discharge.
We don't have a metered rate here. We have a user rate. It's a flat rate. Yeah,
Bulk rate.
flat rate.
Okay, I don't have it, so I'm just asking.
What about liability?
Liability, what,
for the.
Well, just for the construction. If you say we are involved in the construction, are we now liable for anything that happens on this?
Well, obviously, we may have a contractor that has some
Well,
insurance.
I think what happens is that the people are directed by their insurance people to say, hey, you better get yourself a nice high liability policy here because you're going to get beat on if something happens.
Maybe there's benefits to having the public, having it be a public infrastructure project, and that's why a lot of them do happen that way. It's just.
I can tell you in Ticonderoga, your contractor won't be allowed to go to work unless he has his insurance certificates filed upstairs.
But if somebody goes after the contractor, then they go after the people behind the contractor also.
Well,
And
that's-
that's the nature of our legal system in this country.
That's very true.
Not anybody or anybody connected.
But you get a rider on your policy that exempts you from that type of action.
But it also keep in mind, that's no different if it's the town or if it's you.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, this district, if there's 10 users or 200, would pay that. The town doesn't pay that. The town would be acting on behalf of the district.
Yeah.
So in your scenario, if there was some big $1 million judgment, that would be on the users in the district, not the town property. The town general fund can't pay costs like that for a district. I mean, money moves from time to time, if the district is short, money moves around, but eventually all the districts have to reimburse the town, so.
Yeah, if they borrow money from the general fund, the district has to pay it
I
back.
agree with your concern, though. We would.
That's a viable complaint, but it's, that part of it is the same for private or public. Okay, the right to sue is available whether you're suing a private contractor or a municipality. That right is there. Okay.
And I think the one benefit you have already is you have an association. I'm assuming it's still active, not-for-profit, it's all filed and everything. So you're a little bit different scenario than 20 people that may come along and want to have a sewer district.
There are people there that are not members of the
Okay,
association.
that would be, you have to have some agreement with them.
No, that doesn't work.
Well, they wouldn't be allowed to tie in unless they join
Maybe
in.
the elephant in the room.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm up in the morning, Coats Point, that is not a member of the association, that's who they're all talking
What's your
about.
name?
Kim Bellardo. I need to know how this affects me. I'm willing to work with everybody. I carried that petition around 14 years ago to everyone to try and get this district formed. Then, Todd, you remember that? I think some of you remember, Wayne, you remember? You're right. There wasn't 50% of the people that wanted to be on the district. We're 14 years later. We're now looking at increased cost over 14 years. We need to make up our minds. Do we want to swim in shit and drink shit, or do we want to have a district? And if we have the district, we go forward, and we all have to pull it out of our pockets. I am one of the only people, I guess, down there that's not retired. However, I still have bills. I still have to go to work every day, and money is just as tight for me as it is for everyone else. I need to know how this affects me. If it's going to affect me where I have 12 members who are working against me, do I have to run a line up there all by myself? I mean, I'm really confused.
Well, so
I need that answered because there's really no sense in me sitting in this meeting if 12 members are going to say, no, we don't want you in there. I'm willing to pay my fair share. I want clean drinking water. I want clean swimming water.
well, one way or
I don't
another,
cook a whole lot, guys, so if I'm there in the wintertime, my kids are off at school or doing their thing someplace else in some other state. You got one little person down there. So I think it's time to just sort of drop this thing. Let's get it up there on the table. Tell me, am I supposed to be here? Am I not supposed to be here? Is the town going to make me part of the system? If the town builds it, if they build it, does that mean I'm out?
You want to address it? Or you want me to?
there's a lot in there. What I can tell you is the notice in the public hearing tonight is the first step in something's going to happen. Because we have evidence of a failure and it is near our intake. So, this is kind of the olive branch, similar to the olive branch that was extended last year, but this is formal now. Last year we knew the town board wanted to kind of work with some of the owners, see if there was interest in resolving this. Didn't get a very good response. That's why we're here this year, because we knew people were seasonal, and supervisor came along, we talked, and knew that this summer this was going to come up again. So now that it's formal, and the order has been directed, one way or another, something has to be done there. And I think that the idea is it's all economics, right? It's cost benefit. You got to come together and figure out, what Todd's saying is it more cost effective for you guys to do it on your own and dedicate it, including the exposure to litigation and all those things you got to take into account, or is it more economical to have a district, have the town approach for the funding? Because at the end of the day, it's not a something for free scenario. The town, if you form the district and the town went out to try to get grants for you and things like that, all of the costs from that still, a new account gets put into the town's budget, and all the costs go into that. So it's not like the town general fund proper pays for all that. You do. So whether it's, you know, and I admit, it's a lot of work to pull off a construction project like that, particularly if you're, you know, seasonal, got jobs and things like that. It's a bunch of work. The question is it worth it to you to do it that way? As for who's in and who's out, that kind of is to a property owner decision here.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's what I was gonna
excuse
ask.
me, Dan, if I could just continue. You said the permit was basically null and void.
You won the lawsuit.
I won the lawsuit, but that didn't get filed. It was supposed to be filed by the association. They didn't file it, so it's null and void. If it's null and void, there is no association.
No. The difference.
Or there is an association, it's just that the part about the septics,
No.
that had a lot of conditions.
No. The association and the permit are two different things. You can have a homeowner association for virtually anything.
Okay, so, but what I'm saying is, are you telling me, you're the lawyer, are you telling me that because I live down there, this association, the members of the association can say I cannot go on this septic line?
No.
Okay.
That
What are you
decision
telling-
ultimately would come here.
That is what?
That decision ultimately would come here. The first step is to gauge who wants to be in the district, who would like to get access. There are some that need it. That's the purpose of this order. There are some that need either to fix the septic system or get access to the town system. Those are really the two choices right now. The question is, can you do the first one?
Well,
That's the people that are under order.
Obviously, every day, the cost of living goes up. The cost of everything goes up. So every day we put this off, or every year we put it on, it goes up. Plus the fact that we're contaminating, I guess, we're contaminating the water down there, which is what we drink and what we swim in. So it's almost like, to me, it's a new question. Why are we fighting this if it's going to better everything for all of us and the value of our properties? Obviously, some people are selling. If they're selling and they have a septic, municipal septic, that's a heck of a lot better than a patch of grass with some pipes in it. So my answer is that it's this town board that would determine whether I got on the line unless they form their own private corporation.
Here's what the answer is. It's whoever's on that map plan report. Todd just showed the map. There are certain parcels up further that for whatever reason aren't in the Baldwin district. Didn't want to be in, had no need for it. They're not in. There are others that are. So what you have now is the idea of a district is an alternative to fixing the septic system. If the septic system can't be fixed, then you're kind of heading towards the town, the municipal solution. If the septic system could be fixed, but it's more advantageous to still be connected to the municipal system, then you head that direction as well. So there's two parts to that. One, the group that needs a solution, right, has to have a solution. One way or another, there has to be a solution to the septic disposal, right? That's one group of people. Let me finish. Then the next is an elective. There's a group of elected people who wants to be in. That's when Todd or somebody was saying, go to neighbors, see if more people want to be in. The more numbers, to an extent, there's a tipping point. The more numbers, there's power in numbers with a district. The more people you get in, it may be more advantageous to have more people. Those people would be elective, right? You got people who need in or need a solution. This is a solution. And then there's those that electively may say, hey, I want that. My septic's okay right now, and I know it's towards the end of its lifespan. Probably a good idea for me to get in now and never have to worry about it. So those people would be elective. Could some people come along and say, no, you can't get in? They'd
That's my
have
question.
to come to this board. That's a tough road to hoe.
And house.
Excuse me, could you finish that?
I said that's a tough road to hoe to try to push somebody out. There would have to be a pretty good economic reason. You know, if they were 10 lots away, and it was going to increase the cost of the district by $50,000, some crazy number to get them in, that'd be a reasonable justification to say that district shouldn't go out that far. Remember, we're talking sanitary. Don't apply any of this discussion to water because it's a whole different ballgame. But that's ultimately the decision on the map plan report comes to the town board. And to answer you, if you got somebody that there really is no practical reason to exclude them from a district, and they want in, it's difficult for a municipality to say no. There have to be a good reason.
Yes, Mr.
Can I go now? Isn't a lot of this based on the dye test and see what's going to happen after that? I mean, there are going to be...
It's all speculative.
Pass,
It's all speculative until the dye test is done.
People that, may pass, and then it comes down to those that pass, are they forced into going into this?
They would be the electives.
30 elections?
Yes.
Okay, so a lot of this still is based on the dye test?
Will
and
be,
go from there.
will be as, yeah,
Right, okay.
correct.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I have to leave, and I just want to leave with a thought. I think that, especially with Coast Point, the more people you get in, the cheaper it would be. And there are properties that adjoin Coast Point that may very well want to join in, which could also help force it down. I would love to be on the line if there was a way to get on it. So, for me, it's in my lifetime, I don't have a problem, but I got kids and I got grandkids, and I want to protect that property in the lake. So I have neighbors that have this similar thought.
Where are you, Jim?
I'm,
He's farther, he's quite a bit west of it.
yeah, I'm ways down the road. So I
Start
just want
knocking
to
on
leave.
doors.
What's that?
Start knocking on doors.
Yeah.
In the spirit of, Bill Archer, in the spirit of that question, if Harts Bay showed an intent or an interest, as they did a long time ago, along with Coast Point, at that point, in forming a partnership, would the town be willing to build a little further down the line for all of us to make it more economical?
If it was cheaper.
If it'll benefit the whole, I mean, of
In
course.
forming a partnership,
Sure.
sometimes, I know in my town, I've gone to the town fathers and said, we need to be a little futuristic. There's a couple of key areas around the school. Why don't you run the water and sewer down that lane, and we'll invite a project to fill in so that we have more people for our schools and more things going. All utilities, the telephone company, the power company, and the cable TV especially, they will build spur lines periodically to enhance the program and to add additional revenue. We're almost in that kind of a situation here with the numbers.
This is one of those scenarios under New York law where people can get together as a group and come to the board, because again, at the end of the day, it's all the district's expense. So this future district that would get formed, if it's economic for 20 of you, 30 of you, 40 of you, it's all the economics. It's you coming to the town saying, this is what we want to do. This is going to work for us. This is a decision we've made. Let's take this in this direction. And then the map plan report gets finalized, the numbers get run, engineering reports on design, build, and all those costs get factored in, and you get a number. You say, okay, here's what our rate is going to be going forward.
Okay.
Drew Harper. Quick question. As I say, we've talked about all this stuff, but at the same point in time, obviously the dye test will be done within, the next 30 to 60 days, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I would say.
After that dye test has been done and is conclusive, what's the time frame on us having to have a map plan report and all that kind of stuff done and construction started if we were going in that direction versus, people decide to fix, or, whatever the option is? What is the time frame on that?
It's going to depend on the amount of interest after the dye test.
Okay.
Okay, if the dye test comes back and it's 2 individuals, I don't know where the interest is going to lie at that point. If it comes back and it's 8 individuals, that's going to be significantly different, I'm sure. And
You also mentioned
depending on the amount of that is going to depend, it's also going to have an impact on the board, because if we've got 2 individuals with a problem, that's significant. Okay, if we've got 7 or 8, that's a lot more significant, and we're going to push
I know
harder.
this is the start of an enforcement
Yes.
issue, so it's like, well, what's the actual timeline of enforcement, before?
Yeah, we're good. If depending on the scope of the problem, is going to depend on how hard we push to get it corrected and how quick we want to get it corrected. It's
The one
yes,
thing,
Todd.
go ahead.
To reinforce what Bill's saying here, if you just have 2 individuals, obviously that gets handled much differently. If it's just this Coates Point area, that will still be a fairly quick report. If we're talking about Parks Bay, now there is more justification for going on board because it's a much bigger concern, accomplishes much more. So both from the town standpoint, even Environmental Facilities Corporation is going to have more of an interest in this and is going to want to contribute to what happens here. So that could push it out.
Well, that's part of what I was wondering too, because obviously if we do decide to go the grant route, it's like, it takes time. We all know that it takes 6 months to a year to get, grants a lot of times.
At least.
Published, at least, exactly. So is this something that was going to have to be fixed in, 3 months, or is this something that we'll have the time to be able to put the grants into place? I guess that's kind of where I was looking at.
That's a very good question.
That depends on
A lot
the
of
problem, how severe the problem is.
It's going to depend on the severity of the problem, how fast. But I think that will also impact how quick the lending agencies will respond and how quick the state agencies will respond if there is grant money available and whatnot. The actual situation on the ground is going to have an impact on them also.
But wouldn't a district formation be a prerequisite to applying for a grant?
Yes.
So,
Or at least the map plan report.
then you can do the map plan report.
What about Rogers Rock?
Pardon?
The people in the Rogers Rock Association, no one's on the system, obviously.
Right.
I understand what Jim Majors is saying, that some of those houses down there, there's quite a distance between them. If it were offered to the association members, those houses are fairly close together, as you know, Bill, you've been over there. What if they were on? Is there a way to study that and see if it was offered to them? If more people reduce the cost of this entire thing, would it offset the distance between some of the houses in Hart Bay? And could that be looked at, Todd?
Could be.
That's going to be on us, though, to get people interested enough to find out those numbers.
Yeah.
No, the map plan report, are we going to be able to get it from the numbers from the town before we necessarily start looking at independent options and things like that? Like, somebody mentioned $1,200 a month $1,200 a year per person for 30 years. Was that over an incredibly long distance? Or, because really for Coach Point, it's a very short distance with 11 people. Would we be able to get a dollar range before we start looking into independent contractors and trying to get our own grants and trying to get our own things like that?
Sure. Well, it's going to depend on interest. So if there's a lot of people interested, obviously there's some higher costs that are involved for a lot of different factors, environmental and so on. And that's why the town would investigate having grants that would cover the cost of that type of engineering document. If it's, say, 5 or 10 folks or the group that's selected here, that map plan report obviously costs much less, and the options that you would investigate are fewer. And that's where it becomes more cost effective. Pursue outside their own solutions, and it becomes very, very difficult to discern which way would be the best way to go. If this project were much bigger, including Harts Bay, I can say that pursuing grants is absolutely what you should do, because those costs will be higher, it'll be more cost effective, and you have a much greater chance of getting those grants. So I think the first thing we need to have is the interest, because then I think the town can give you that feedback. I could give you some numbers on typically what that would cost, and we could talk about something that's real.
The project that Mr. Allen described to us last year didn't sound overly sophisticated. It basically was a 2-inch line. He was going to run an 1.5-inch line by himself. And then it was the board's desire that if we could go with a 3-inch line, if you could put in a 3-inch line, that could possibly include some of the rest of you folks. And it wasn't a really involved system the way he described it. It was going to be dug down the county right away, down the Baldwin Road, and it wasn't. My point would be it wouldn't be awfully expensive.
Well, there were some real inherent problems with going down Baldwin Road.
Right.
That's why it was scrapped, and that's why the proposal for taking a different route came out.
And what was the route that
Yeah,
you
where would that route be? Because I
Okay.
need clarification.
He was going, as I understand it, you got it? No, that's fine. He was going up Coates Point Road, across Baldwin Road, and down the west side of Baldwin Road to the first available manhole.
Don't you need pumps to get it up there?
Yes?
Yes.
He was gonna he was gonna do all of that. Okay? Where he ran into trouble was the way Baldwin Road is laid out.
Yeah.
There is no buffer right-of-way on the westerly side, and he would have needed easements all the way down Baldwin Road till he got to that first manhole, and it was just, some people didn't want to grant easements, he just ran into it.
Wouldn't we have that same problem?
No.
Oh, okay, no.
Okay, you would, the proposal that I'm looking
My
at,
property.
you're gonna run right along the lake shore of Coates Point with directional drilling. You're gonna go right behind the filter plant and up Steamboat Landing Road to that first manhole.
Okay, so from the point,
Right.
you're saying.
You're gonna pump back,
Where you started?
you would,
Lakeside, first there, where do you start from?
okay, start there, pump back to the central pumping station about, go north, go north, little west. Okay, somewhere in there, you're gonna put a pump station. All right, everything will gravity feed, most everything will gravity feed back to that. The two houses that are on the lake shore south of it would have to pump up into it. Okay? Everything else could run gravity back to it. From there, it's gonna run, right around the lake shore. Right around the lake shore, just like that, right behind the building, up Steamboat Landing Road, and tie into that manhole at the top of
Got
the
a
hill.
big tank in that spot where you pointed?
Yes, well, it wouldn't be huge,
Well-
because there's not that much effluent involved.
Okay, and then there would be a pump?
There would be two. It'd be an alternating pump system, so if one pump failed, you've got to back up.
Okay, there'd be a pump in there which was now some kind of a pressure pump, or?
Two
Positive
pumps.
displacement, yeah.
Yep, positive displacement pumps,
But everybody going in there would just be either gravity or just a,
or pump two,
pump?
yes, depending on whether they're.
I was at all meetings for the last district enlargement, they were going to stop, or, again, the throat's dry. They were going to stop right on the top of our hill, but they stopped at Steamboat Landing instead. Now, they had a pump station proposed down on Bill Dow's property in that triangular area there,
Okay,
which is
No, above
above the dry dock.
above the dry dock.
Oh, okay, right in here.
Right, no, up above, right
Right
next
in there.
corner. Now, there's two roads, and access
That's where it is
to our
now.
lot there, and the main Coast Point Road for a pump station, because the town has to go in there and pull the pumps to have access for good areas, you know? There's a pull pump and drop it on a truck on the other side, but that's an ideal place. I'll have to pump to wherever I go.
I haven't walked it enough.
Yeah.
I'm shooting off the top of my head somewhat here,
Sounds reasonable.
but
Yeah,
it's,
That's where they had it. I took the drawings home. I
okay.
had copies.
If you have copies of those, they would,
They're 100 miles away, and I might have thrown them away.
okay. Well,
When they killed it, I got disinterested.
if, when you get back home, if you come across them, they might be helpful.
If I knew this was going to happen, I wouldn't throw them. But that is, from my point of view,
Yeah, well, there's, the technical, the real technical nitty-gritty is yet to be worked out.
yeah, I know.
But we've come up with some options. I know Mr. Allen ran into problems last fall, and that's why his didn't happen. In discussions with him and our code people for what they were looking at, and with our sewer department and with Todd, we've come up with some alternatives that could work if you folks have the interest.
Now, if the rest of the Parks Bay wanted to get involved, how would that alter what you just pointed out?
Mr. Major was talking that they designed it along the Baldwin Road, everybody pumping up the Baldwin Road.
Would we still have
That-
the same pump
that gets
system
it.
for us, and then it would pump up to that?
I would say absolutely, but I think you could probably cut a bunch, shooting off the top of my head here. I'm known for thinking out of the box a little bit. Some people think I'm just naturally nuts, but that's okay. I haven't discussed this with Todd at all, but my thought processes were that it runs downhill easier than it's pumped, and a lot of those places could feed to gravity along the shoreline. Now, Mr. Major just said that was ruled out years ago, but I don't know why.
Through our bay, they would have to easement from us to do that, so therefore they were going up to the road and along the road.
Well, there would have to be an easement constructed all the way from wherever it ends on the far end of it.
Yeah, but
There would
it's easier
have,
to do that.
everybody along the way is gonna have to give up an easement, including you folks, to put it up through your association. Okay, so, that's not the issue. I don't know what the issue could have been, because a good number of those houses sit at an elevation above the shoreline, and my experience tells me that if you run down to a gathering point, that eliminates pumps. And every time you eliminate pumps, you eliminate $4,000. It would eliminate the length of the pressure laterals. You eliminate money. You eliminate cost. I don't know that the design was thought out
So it sounds like a lot of this really, we have to
the way
wait
some
till
other
the
people
die
might
test
do it.
is done, so that we really get the people that know that they have to be involved, plus then we can start getting all the electives in, a loss, part bay, or anything like that. So really, I mean, we have to kind of wait till that's done before we start making any big plans or changes, but we can really start thinking about it.
Excuse me, lady in the back.
I'm Dawn House, and we're doing a lot of what-ifs.
Yes.
So if we do what was proposed and go along the shoreline, and Todd, would you point to where you thought we were going to come to? Okay,
This is
here.
the pump station right here.
And we are at the very end and up by Baldwin Road. So
Right.
go all the way to the right, yeah, we're right up in there.
Yep.
Would we have to go down backwards to go up, or can we just go straight down?
Straight down.
No, you'd
We have
run
to
to,
go down.
you'd be going to the pump station.
If they go through the same trench as they're gonna put the pipe up?
Because there would be a pump, this would have to come back down to the pump station to be pumped up, or, we have to run a scenario to see whether.
Maybe you combine everybody in the upper topographic area into one line, and just run the one line.
You could run the laterals together.
With the pressure.
Yes.
That's possible too.
Billy, a quick question. In all the ifs that Don pointed out, there is a lot of them on the table. One of the things would be if the association was to receive a template or an outline of what is necessary to form a district, at least we could get a first glance at that.
That's available, don't we have that available in their checklist for district formation?
Online, I think. It's in the bars.
Then the two things could be
have them all over.
rather than
Yeah.
wait.
I think that's available already. I'll check.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we can email.
Yeah.
If you get, actually, if you've got a central point of contact, someone that can get information out to everybody, that would be great.
That would be me. I volunteered for that.
Okay. Just to clarify, everybody would keep their septic tanks, right?
Pardon?
Just to clarify, everyone would keep their septic tanks in use, and it's just the effluent that would be.
That's a good question. Not necessarily, because of the type of pumps that the town uses, and that would be spec'd for this, are capable of handling solids also. So, if you could flow solids and effluent, I don't think it would matter specifically to the town.
There's a lot of cost-benefit analysis that's been done on those types of systems, septic tank effluent discharge systems. The problem is that the septic tank still has to be maintained, it still has to be pumped. But it can save some costs in certain applications.
I would have to buy a grinder pump system versus just having a liquid pump system. So that would cost me a lot.
No. Not, are you going to be below the?
Yes.
You'd be below it?
I'm on Harts Bay having to pump.
You don't have, but you wouldn't have to, buy a grinder pump, you'd have to buy a pump, but you would have to maintain your septic tank.
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
It would be plausible to maintain a septic and not have to go into a grinder pump. And
Yes.
just pump that fluid to the tank you mentioned.
Let me give them a little bit of technical, another what if to throw into the mix here. If for some reason this line along the lake were pursued, when you go to a septic tank effluent discharge system, you no longer are required to run them to grade as you are a regular sanitary collection system. So therefore, you could do things, create like directional drill to collect your effluent because it doesn't have to go just downhill, it can ride up and down as long as the grade of the septic tank is above that, maybe because the solids are going to that. Then you can come down to one central effluent collector and pump it out with much smaller diameter means because you don't need to meet the requirements of that type of system. So that's one scenario that could be by having those septic tanks. The problem is that if that tank is not maintained, obviously it doesn't work all that well because then you end up with solids in that effluent line and that can create some troubles. So it would have to have some kind of a maintenance and whether the town will be obligated to maintain that or the homeowner will be obligated to maintain that.
It would be a district.
They've been done
Wouldn't do that.
both ways. But that would have to be evaluated.
Because if it wasn't maintained, it still ends up in your pit and blows your pump. We can talk about that after. That's what they're dealing with in South End of the Lake. Yeah.
I got other thoughts on that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw in a random one.
Well, no, I mean, what you're saying is if all of a sudden the pipe is plugged, that means you got a problem with your septic tank and you can replace the septic tank or whatever. I mean, yeah, you can have a failure and then you replace it with a brand new septic tank. What's to maintain with a septic tank? Most of them sit there for 100 years.
And that's exactly what causes problems in leach fields.
Well, you get a problem and then you fix it.
That's where you are almost to the year.
You know, if it works, don't fix it.
Yeah, but
So what are the water samples, surveys on that area, are they public?
yes.
Has there been a raise in pollution in the north end of the lake?
I don't specifically know. I can speak to the Ticonderoga pump station,
So you
but
do
I
see
can't
a-
speak to the lake.
So the pump house, you do see a raise of pollution?
We have not.
Water?
No,
We
no,
have
what
not
we need
yet.
to understand is that that doesn't even enter into the equation. Pollution that's in Lake George, if you have surface pollution,
Yeah.
that's the beginning and end of the discussion. It doesn't, because Lake George is a non-discharge lake, it's drinking water. So and there are other ones going around the lake, believe me, this is an issue that's being addressed all over the lake. That's why you have to, they're legally required to take action. There is no daily load or anything like that on Lake George, it's drinking water. So unfortunately, it doesn't even come into the discussion.
One thing on the presentation, I don't know, I could be wrong here, but when he showed where the intake pipe goes, he said it was into Coach Point Bay. It goes past Coach Point and goes, I believe, into Harts Bay where the intake
You can actually see the pipe going down, it goes diagonally down from the pump house. It goes well
is.
past.
It goes well past the point.
I know, 45 minutes.
More towards, yeah, right in
Goes
there.
more to the west.
Actually, it is. I like that.
Just so I heard him say that, and I just wanted to comment.
I just want to throw something out there to your question. Several years ago, Tom Morehouse, or most of the Morehouses on Black Point Road wanted that same question answered and asked. I believe it was the Georgia Park Commission, they had a bunch of testing on Hart Bay, the Black Point side. Whatever that day is, I don't know if they remember that day, this one, the little one was called. But they did run some tests on that, they didn't find anything. Don't know if it's there now, anything about
At Darren Freshwater Institute, does sampling of the lake routinely, as far as they could probably get you that information.
Don't they have to sample
I think it'd be
everyone?
an RPI.
The water treatment plant?
Yes,
They do, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so you know.
And the Darren is out every day
No, but I
doing
mean,
different portions of the lake.
it doesn't impact what you can or can't do. It just, it's good to know, but we couldn't say because the pollution isn't that bad, we can do something else. If there's any potential discharge to the lake, we have to, unfortunately, address it.
Yes, sir.
Greg Sherwin, but if we're going through all the costs of putting in that sewer line and everything, directional drilling and all that, is it possible to also add the water? I mean, it's got to be just a pipe. You're doing all the work, the drilling's all done, property values will...
Well, the way directional drilling works, okay, you dig a hole, set up a directional drill, and you drill to another hole. And when you get there, you hook the pipe onto the drill bit and pull it back. So for each pipe you put in, you would have the same cost per se. Water is a bit different because obviously it needs to go deeper. And a lot of times the specifications of the pipe are different and you can't use the directional drilling as liberally as you would with an effluent line. So, and they can't run together. I mean, you gotta drill each one separately, and the water is substantially more expensive to do than the effluent.
And on top of that, we would have to pay the town the taxes that we now, other people who don't live on the lake and pump their water out of the lake, there'd be another tax on us from the town, correct?
If you use the lake water, or if you use
If
the
we
town
went-
water?
Yes.
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 Yeah, there's a charge for the,
To put it in.
yeah, there's a charge for the water, yes.
I believe also the code says that the water has to be a certain distance away from the effluent pipe. You can't have two pipes right next to each other.
Not in the same
They have to be
ditch.
separated
Right.
by quite a distance.
No, I think you're confusing, well, it's not a huge difference. Okay,
But a couple of
yeah. Okay, folks, I hate to cut you short, but we've been at this for a while, and an awful lot of it has been speculative. I would urge you to discuss this. If you're going the district route, please get to us as soon as possible. We'll be doing the test just as soon as we get the variation in dye colors that we need. If they come tomorrow, we'll do them tomorrow. I mean, it's that, from our point of view, it's that kind of situation. We want to move it forward as rapidly as possible. And that's why we're trying to keep you informed.
And who will be doing the testing?
Our code enforcement people. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much.
I guess probably is. She probably did. Pardon?
Late Saturday. Okay, my son knows it.
That's cool. She's here in town.
They should tell her Christopher House said so.
Yeah, we're the lower of the
It's just a matter of something's here for it.
I know, it's our hands for the
Long term. It's a no-brainer package like that.
Want to get some work done? Want to get some work done?
I'd like to, yeah.
First came in.
They're on the main in the morning, so.
You are? All right, well, I'll give you some work for the hand. You can get me all the DVDs and stories that you can get for a couple $100.
It's sold.
And stolen each other.
We're still lining, we're not that
The next day it went through, it was about,
It was about $25 an hour.
So that plan report was
It's stolen. Yeah, ST.
okay, yeah, I will use whatever it is.
I see. And then,
Is it vodka or?
yeah.
It's vodka.
They used to, they'd line me up for some goddamn surgery, say, clear liquids. I'd say, okay, here we go again. Yes, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I used to do it for Thatcher. We go over a couple times a year. We just pick it up.
Yeah, anybody goes to Hampshire. That should be about, 4 weeks or somewhere around there. I was thinking about it. It was about $25 a month. If you got a few extra shekels, you can even it up to 4 each. Make the difference.
Unfortunately, pressurizing that close to the lake, they're going to be safety issues in terms of what happens if
There is the
Same thing in Blackpool.
They got to approve it though. Any new construction of collection facilities, collection infrastructure, it's in that.
What they're really gonna look at is the pump station.
yeah, I mean, the expression is that Todd said they're laying the way.
We've got
The
the
enforcement authority for status quo, but something new.
But what do they do? They all went to the now system, all these places.
700 feet to the
No, they've got, some have got their own, some have got their lap. It's a freaking mess. Okay. We get back to work, please?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we are still working for a while.
Bill, do you want me out here? Want me to back up?
Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Would you tell him I said thank you for clarifying that? That was very important. Thanks, guys.
All right, Ken.
Thank you.
Is there any talk on any of those drawers?
I think you could. I think you could.
I can,
Yeah?
Quick taco.
Okay, we don't have very much public left to comment, but if anybody would like to, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I know Sharon wanted to say something. I know, I'll go over what she wants. Oh, what she
We'll move to resolutions. Accept the motion to correct or accept the minutes of regular and special meetings.
If you want to do just the regular town board meeting, because Wayne has to abstain because he wasn't here. And then you can do another one.
Okay, we'll do the town board meeting, do the town board meeting first.
I'll make a resolution then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Okay, the special meetings?
That was your finance meeting.
I'll move, we accept the minutes as presented.
Move?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of water and sewer reports.
I'll move, we accept them.
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Approval of the supervisor's monthly financial report. You have an attachment?
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Have a motion to pay the bills?
Make a resolution. Oop, pardon me.
Made by Chatty, seconded by Fred.
There you go.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we need a resolution authorizing a budget amendment due to changing the admission fee to attend the summer program, reduce the revenue account A2773, and increase expenditure account A7311.441 to refund $370.75 in overpayments.
I'll make that resolution.
Moved by Fred,
I'll second it.
seconded by Wayne. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution directing the following Town of Ticonderoga Employee Handbook change, Section 506, bereavement leave, subsection, the old stated the request must be submitted in writing to the superintendent of highways, and the superintendent of highways shall have total discretion. It should read, the request must be submitted in writing to the appropriate department head. For whatever reason, that all got laid to the superintendent of highways, and it should include all department heads.
I move we adopt the change.
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We'll move on to reports of committees. Public Works. You have an attachment with the minutes of the Public Works Committee. I will be very brief. We had discussions on a bunch of items. The water project, which is moving forward. We expect a decision on the hardship application yesterday. Should be here within the week. And we'll know where that stands. We have not heard anything on our engineer's report, the Department of Health, nor have we heard any information on our well situation. We have a number of individual service hookups that are being looked into by the sewer department and water department. And there are a couple that are district hookups. All of them are being expedited and will be done through the new sewer and water ordinance hookups that we've adopted. The Tower Avenue Bridge project is going to be starting. The reason that's in the water report is because the water line that is attached to the bridge is going to be the first thing that's addressed in the project. They're going to directionally drill the new water line and get that all in place before they pull the other one off the old bridge. There was some concerns over that. And in the interest of brevity, if there aren't any questions, you have the minutes to read, and they will be published on the, are they published on the website also? Yes. So the public can get them there if they need to. We'll go to operation efficiency.
We didn't have a operations efficiency meeting because of the pre-construction meeting for the Tower Avenue Bridge. But our next meeting is scheduled for July 24th at 1 o'clock, community building.
Very good. Buildings and grounds. Dave is not here. Chatty, would you like to address?
I guess some of the points to cover on the buildings and grounds. We looked at the Festival Guild sign that's in the park, and since it doesn't look so great and that's not the site anymore, I talked to Junie Walker to see if they'd like to remove it, and so they're trying to decide what they want to do about that. The armory, the I'm not sure what the status of having the oil tanks removed and propane possibly be replaced by propane, is that?
We're looking into the cost to the boilers on that, and that is a distinct possibility for efficiency and the cost of the tanks.
So of the new propane boilers?
Well, we wouldn't do new boilers, we would just do the burners would convert to a propane burner, and then the fuel storage tanks would convert to outdoor propane tanks.
Now, in the minutes, it says Dave will ask the town council to approve hiring a clerk of the works for this project. Is that something we want to discuss, or?
We can briefly, we've had some discussions about using a clerk of the works on our construction projects. It has not been done in the past. It's a feeling of some board members that it is really to the town's best interest to have a clerk of the works. However, this particular project, being that it involves fuel particularly, is inspected by about 6 different government agencies, be they state or federal. And with that kind of oversight, I think for the town to hire their own clerk would be overkill. And I think it's money that we don't need to spend on this particular project.
So where does that?
It's, you know, when this project goes to bid, we can include that if the board thinks it's necessary. It's just the opinion of one. There is so much oversight in regards to the scope of work to be done that I don't feel it's necessary at all to spend the money for a clerk.
As far as the system be professionally designed, right?
Yeah.
Engineers will
Yes.
design it and scope the work out. and everything,
Yes,
so, yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
So,
Most other projects, I wouldn't feel that way. But it's just, there's so much oversight with the fuel tanks that it's, even the airport fuel tank situation is different because there's poured concrete, there's blacktop, there's road building, there's parking building, there's a storage shed, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to go along with the airport fuel tank. Different situation. Would I recommend a clerk for that one? Yeah, I can go along with that. I think it's necessary. But the fact that we're just setting probably 2 propane tanks, running a new line, and that work is going to be looked at by every agency from soup to nuts. I just think it's overkill to...
You'd have to bid it as an alternate. You'd have to bid it as an alternate line item in your bid if you wanted a clerk.
No.
We've done that in the past.
No, that's, you're hiring an engineering agent or an architect's agent. A clerk is hired independently by the board and reports directly to the board and intercedes between the design entity and the contractor entity.
We used to use Ivan Macy on a number of these projects, but
That
he
is-
worked for AES.
He works for the engineer, he does not work for the town.
Right.
The clerk of the works works for the town.
Okay.
so with regard to, I'm just going to push a little bit with regard to timing of it. You know, we're going to, it's July, we're going to be heating the armory around October, November. So,
Well, the timing of it is in regards to the condition of the tank and the replacement time frame regarding the tank. I believe we have 3 years now,
oh, my notes say it's good for a couple of years.
at least. I think it's 3. We just had the tank pressure tested, and we're going forward investigating the cost that would be involved to change it to propane, change the boilers, change the tanks, and so that we can compare the cost between change over to propane or staying fuel and replacing the fuel tank.
But the one boiler is new, or they're both new.
They're both,
They're both
yeah, they're not replacing the boilers.
But they'll be
Replacing
converted to
the-
propane.
They'll be converted to a propane burner. Exactly. The boilers are staying. That's not the
On
issue.
top of that, the DEC will be there to check on pulling that tank and making sure everything is.
Well, the whole thing is going to be overseen by 16 different agencies.
Right.
Okay, so we're good for a couple more years?
Yes.
I'll leave the door, okay, thank you. The beach is open, it's up and running, well, as far as I know at this point. Bicentennial Park, well, we got through the 4th of July, so I think everything's good there. We still have the issue of conduit that needs to be reburied, retrenched. And we did have a couple of people, they weren't actual bids, but they
We
were
have
bids.
2 RFPs, we're waiting on the third.
Okay.
Hopefully that'll get done this summer.
Looking at all the parks, I think one of the things I'd like to just throw out there, I spent a couple of hours one Friday afternoon with Rich Holmberg, who supervises our beautification crew. And it took me to 26 different parks that this crew maintains. It's a crew of 7. They work less than 30 hours a week, so they maintain a part-time status. They not only do mowing and trimming, they also install window air conditioners. They're asked to do repairs around. So I'd just like to, I guess, express a little appreciation for all that they do. And the other thing that I was thinking, in some of these parks that they maintain are small parks. And in one case with Carillon Park, we have a neighbor who actually helps. He'll go in there and pull some weeds or do some trimming. He'll do a little cleanup just because he's there and he wants to see it look nice. We also have the garden club, mostly with Joyce and Jerry Cooper, who spend hours and hours on our parks. So I was wondering, and I don't know if it comes under buildings and grounds or operations efficiency, about having a little appeal, an initiative, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, to ask local residents, citizens, say, well, gee, if this park is near you, maybe you could help us out with weeding or planting flower or cleaning up, kind of an adopt a park program.
Yeah, Dick Slater's been doing that for years. He takes the flag up and down every day
Right.
down here.
Yep.
You know, Dick has volunteered and helped us a lot with that, done with the shoe.
Yeah, and he's the one who...
Dick Slater. Yeah.
Right, he's the one at the Carillon Park who I'm thinking of. If he's willing to do that, maybe we have some other residents who would be willing to do something similar because they live next to it or they just have a special interest in it. So I don't know.
It's a good idea.
So I don't know, how do you think we should approach it? Should we,
No, I had thought of something similar with catch basins. If we could get people to adopt a catch basin, the one from their house. You know what I mean, Tanya?
I know. I was watching Bill.
Yeah, it's wishful thinking probably, but.
okay, well, I'll try to bring it forward somehow.
Yeah, take it back to committee,
Did
Chad.
you really say that?
What'd you say?
Adopt the catch basin.
It was a thought. It was a thought.
Hey, why not? You never know. You never know. Maybe somebody will say, yeah, I'm wanting to do that. So we have a number of different issues that aren't too large. I don't know, Wayne, are you going to have a report on the library?
I wasn't able to attend the meeting. I have nothing at the work.
Well, if I could address some of it here, at least the buildings and grounds part. This morning, they they have a number of work orders, some of which the beautification crew might address, but some of them are really larger issues. And they identified the three most important ones. The first one are the bookshelves. Now, it's a library, so a library has lots of books and lots of shelves, so that's just a basic thing that we have to, that there has to be enough of it and it has to be safe, and some of them have been falling in. In fact, one collapsed just the other day, and it could be, not that anybody's been hurt, hopefully nobody would be hurt.
Are they overloading them?
Well, they fill them up. The shelf is this wide, they're older, the wood is getting tired, the pegs are getting tired, and they just, they're just filling them up with books. That's what they're there for. So we thought, well, if the beautification crew if they're freed up enough so that they can make it a priority to at least do short-term fixes. But we have a beautiful library, and the bookcases really are fitting, they fit in with the character and the age, so we don't want to put something in there that doesn't look right. So we're trying to figure out ways without a lot of money, since there's no money in the budget for this. How do we have nice bookshelves that are constructed in a way that, that they're going to last, that they look nice?
Well, your shelves are too thin for the expansion they've got.
But some of them have been there for years.
And heavy. So
Right.
you would either have to support them or else use heavier, thicker shelves.
Well, so there's a cost issue, there's an aesthetic issue. So they're going to, I think it's Steve Boyce is going to try to find somebody to look at it who may come up with some longer term solutions as to how do we, because a lot of them are collapsing. And how we might solve that problem. It's been an issue on buildings and grounds for the last year, from what I understand.
Well,
And no one's looked at them?
they've done a few of them.
They've repaired a few of them.
And I have them on, we're waiting for a rainy day, and we've already got it scheduled that Mike and Tom will be going over there and fixing the other two. But they have to take the books off first. They were ready to do it on Monday because the library's
Right.
closed. I didn't know about it on Friday to tell Heather to clean the books off Saturday, so they could go in there. So it's in the works, but last I knew, Steve was going to check into doing something a little more, better bookcases, because they are very, very old. And all of them really need to be secured with some L brackets, and that's what we've done.
Well, I'm not even sure that L brackets would do it, because the center part is still, that's the weak, that's weak.
I know a guy that's built a good number of bookcases and whatnot. Maybe we can get him in there to take a look, maybe even as soon as tomorrow.
Okay. Do you want me to call him, or you want to call him? Or?
I'll call him.
Okay. And it would be good for Steve Boyce, but he's the one who's
I
trying.
think he even built some at Boyce's house.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
Maybe that's who's going to talk to him.
Oh, okay. Great. Bill's going to take care of it. The second thing were or were you the one who did it? No?
Might be.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, he would love to go over there with you.
Yeah. We'll get a look at them.
Okay. The second thing are the leaky valleys. Now, I had a brief conversation with you this morning, and you said it's not the leaky valleys, it's something else.
It's not the valleys themselves that are leaking. It looks like a ventilation piece that was installed in the roof that's different than I have seen in my experience. And I've been trying to see who's got the blueprints for the library construction to get a look at those, and maybe even a specification list. You got them?
Blueprints for that new addition.
Okay.
And I did have Dale look at it too, and he said.
I know. And Dale, he came down to see me.
Yeah, he did, he's not gonna.
He's never seen it, neither have I.
Oh, he said he's seen it down south.
Yeah, but not up, not in cold weather climate. Yeah. And
But he wants nothing to do with it.
well, we got some pretty tough cops. So we'll make him an offer he can't refuse.
But I do have the blueprints for that.
Okay. I will need those. Is there a spec sheet with them, specification booklet
For the, yeah.
for the library? Okay, good. Good, we
Oh, yeah.
should be able to find out what it is, and how it's supposed to be there, then we can take it apart and see if it was done properly. Then we know who to go after. It should still be under warranty.
Okay, thank you. And the third area is there's a trim board outside the new section that needs to be resecured. So they said it would be a 5-minute fix. So Tanya, there's a trim board outside the new section that needs to be resecured. They said it would be a 5-minute fix, so if you could add that to the
God, those
beautification
5-minute
crew.
fixes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I've seen a lot of those take a week. I've seen a lot of those take a week.
Yeah, I'm sure they can take a look at it when they go over and do those 2 shelves that we know definitely need to be fixed right now.
Yeah. And another one fell down yesterday, I think. The next meeting will be on Tuesday, July 15th at 10 a.m. The minutes will be part of the record if anybody wants to look at all the minutes and the sheet. Thank you.
Economic development, we're going to keep you going.
Okay. Sharon Reynolds from Pride was here at the beginning of the meeting and wanted to share that the Ticonderoga Natural Foods Co-op is going to be announcing a membership drive. They're looking to sign up 300 members by September. And if that doesn't happen, then the co-op probably isn't going to be able to go forward. If anybody's interested in the food co-op, you could call Sharon at Pride. You could also, they do have a Facebook page that's called Ticonderoga Natural Foods Co-op that you can look at to see what's going on, where they're going. So she was going to offer more information about what the co-op is and where they are, but that's the next step is a membership drive. And so if people sign up and then they don't get 300 members and they drive and they don't go forward, then your money would be refunded. But it would be, the co-op needs, it's like any other business, it needs money to run a place and have it renovated and to buy inventory. So it's a startup and to hire a person to manage it. Other things about economic development, the Cultural Arts Initiative produced a rack card for all of the arts activities that are going to be going on in July and August. So you can find those in a number of different locations. North Country Community College, we had a meeting on June 25th with Dr. Steve Tyrell and the Essex County IDA. We're partnering on writing the request for proposal to hire a consultant to conduct a feasibility study. The study will look at the feasibility of a college of applied technology here in Ticonderoga. The goal is to apply for, once the study is done, if it's determined that it's a feasible project, then they would apply for a consolidated funding grant in 2015 to support the creation of a multi-college campus. September 1st is a target date to issue the RFP, then proposals would need to be reviewed and a contract awarded. It is hoped the feasibility study would be completed by early summer 2015. Any questions about that? People ask me what's happening with the college, with the School of Applied Technology. It's not dead. It just, like a lot of other good things, it just takes a long time, so it's still moving along.
Is that still in the process of where the Lowells used to be?
We don't know that. There's potentially a buyer for that, and it seems that they don't need that much space. They don't typically use that much space, so it's possible that there's still an ample amount of space available. But whether or not that's the site, there's a lot of property downtown. There are other sites that would work. So that's still a possibility, but it's not the only one that this project is hanging on.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thai TV. We had we're looking at expanding the use of our local TV station, the one that's airing this right now, this meeting. It would be expanding the use of it to promote Ticonderoga businesses, attractions, activities, and facilities to residents and tourists. We had a second meeting on the 8th. It was attended by Dr. John McDonald, Bill Grinnell, Matt Courtwright, Heath Town, and I. As a first step, we agreed that starting Monday, July 14th, this is kind of exciting, the station will list the community calendar of events that is maintained by the Chamber of Commerce. It will also include a TV guide listing that shows the times programs such as the town board meetings will be aired. People have asked me, I'd like to watch the town board meeting, when can I see it? And now this guide will tell you when these things will be available. It will continue to feature the information board that lists town meeting schedules for Ticonderoga and Hay. And this summer, it'll feature press releases about ribbon cuttings and other community events that are submitted to Matt at the Chamber of Commerce. So if any organization has an event that they'd like to have on Thai TV, please send it to the Chamber, and Matt will send it to Heath, and we'll get it out there so it'll be more visible to the public. There's also going to be an area where the public can send questions or suggestions directly to Heath. Is that right? And he'll respond to that. And then in September, we're looking at phase 1, 2, and 3 steps to how the program can be expanded. So it's kind of exciting. Any questions or? The idea is, when you go on, one of the ideas is when you go out of town on vacation, you're sitting in your hotel room, and the public access station tells you about, hotels and restaurants and Fort Ticonderoga and miniature golf and things that a tourist or a visitor can do. We're hoping that in the summer we can have something like that, and that businesses can sponsor this, and it'll help pay for the cost of the program.
Is it going to be an additional cost to the town?
Well, that's the idea, that if we sell sponsorships, it shouldn't be an additional cost to the town.
Okay.
So,
But initially, there's going to be no equipment costs or nothing additional required?
I don't think so. I think we have what we
Isn't that
need.
amazing?
Yeah, so.
It's an untapped resource. It's underutilized resource, so.
And their staff, going to staff it on their end in terms of technical support?
From what I understand, because of budget cuts at the school, Heath was doing other things and didn't have a lot of time to give this.
Right.
So now we're changing his availability so that he can, and we're also using other resources. The Chamber's going to help. Denton Publications is on board with helping with promotions.
And we got a big stick to encourage Heath.
That's good. That's good.
But part of it is his desire to really fit it into what he does and to expand it. And it needs, I think, with attention, we'll have an interest in businesses that will help support it.
See, I don't get the cable anymore, but have they improved the audio quality as far as the sound quality? I know that I had gotten a lot of complaints.
Somewhat.
Somewhat. Good.
Somewhat. And we hope to do better. We're going to try and make this the new HBO. Probably won't have quite the same movie content, but we're going to dress it up. We're going to put a little lipstick on it.
Works for me.
Not lipstick on Heath, just on the program. Any other questions about Thai TV? This is it's a fun project. We're involving the students, so that's another, there's a lot of other opportunity there. And I know Bill's looking at the clock. I just wanted to share, Beth Hill and Fort Ticonderoga had invited people to the Mars Education Center and gave a a presentation on the economic impact of Fort Ticonderoga to the region. And it's estimated that they have a $9 million positive impact on our region for hotel stays, restaurants, retail, gasoline, any other area that you can imagine. So that's a pretty positive thing. And we hope to be working with the Fort more closely on a lot of economic development issues. We just had 200 Trekkies in town. They're now occupying the old Thai Market building. And we're hoping, they were actually filming for 2 weeks, so that filled some hotels and put people in restaurants as well. We're hoping that event's going to be part of Street Fest, and people will actually be able to tour the set of Star Trek Enterprise. So that's another fun thing that brings people into town. In our 2014 action plan, we're looking at creating a business improvement district, and we had a meeting with TMSP, the Chamber, and Pride to look at how we would go about doing that. We have to decide what our boundaries would be and what the criteria for the district, such as how we want things to look. If you go to some towns that have really revitalized themselves, some downtowns, everything goes together. Colors, flowers, trees, benches. It's all tied together, and we're looking to tie in our the natural landscape, the history, and also tie it in with the regional destination master plan that's being developed. We're going to come up with a logo that will identify our region, which will include Hague, Putnam, Crown Point, Mariah, Ticonderoga. And we want to have a theme, not that we all have to look exactly alike, but it's more appealing to a visitor. So we're starting to look at that as well. And as a reminder, the sixth annual Street Fest will be held on Saturday, July 26th from 10 to 3. Montcalm Street will be closed from Glens Falls National Bank to Sunshine Laundry from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. that day. And a heads up, we'd like nobody to be parked on the street the night before, because that makes the chief's job more difficult to find you and ask you to move. The Ticonderoga's 250th celebration events start July 19th through the 27th. Those should be up on, if you don't have a schedule, the Chamber has a schedule, and that should be part of what's appearing on Thai TV as of Monday as well. Farmers Market started last Saturday. The official grand opening is this Saturday. It'll go through October 11th, and it's from 10 to 1. It's been expanded to include more farmers, more products, and special theme days. And I guess that's all I have to say about that. The next economic development meeting will be Thursday, September 18th at 2 o'clock, again in the community building meeting room. Thank you all for listening. Any questions? Thanks.
Next up is the airport. Dave isn't here, and he's mentioned to me that we have a lot going on there right now, so I'm going to steal some of your thunder, I guess.
Go, that's all right with me.
We have talked with our engineer for the fuel farm, and we still do not have the FFA grant. They have not released it yet, and we do have the state funding for the fuel farm, and we are discussing with the state and the contractor the possibility of leasing that portion of the work to get it started and underway. Don't have an answer from anybody yet, but it's negotiations are taking place to try and get the work underway in spite of the FFA. That's it for airport. Highway?
Yep. We did have our meeting on June 24th. with myself, Brad, Mike Parent, Farley, Carla, John Deming, and Dave Woods in attendance. Other guests present were John Barla and Chatty Van Wert. John did ask to speak to the committee and requested that the downtown be hosed down before the annual Street Fest on July 26th and 27th. He also asked for some extra help in terms of the street dance, which is also being held July 23rd. Mike Parent went on to state that there is a problem with the street sweeper trying to sweep around parked cars, boats, trailers, and garbage cans. I would ask the people in the general public if it would be possible if they could just be mindful of that as we work hard to try to keep the roads clean and the streets swept, and if you could make a little extra effort and just move your cans to a point where they might not impede the street sweeper, we would appreciate it. Otherwise, I did direct the highway superintendent to consult with Chief Johns, and any impediments to the highway need to be removed, so especially the parked cars. We did go over the minutes, and there were no issues from the May 27 meeting. We did talk about our budget, current year-to-date expenses and revenues, and we are in good shape. We're pretty much where we should be. There had been some concerns with vehicle maintenance, where we made a transfer at our middle of the month meeting from the vehicle maintenance, from the vehicle capital reserve to the standing maintenance account. They don't anticipate having to use it, but they thought they needed it there to be safe. Mike Parent would also like to thank the farmers who cooperated with taking some of the tires that were collected on the town cleanup day. A couple months ago, there was over 500 tires that we would have otherwise had to pay to dispose of, and he wanted to express his appreciation to the farmers for taking the tires off our hands. I had raised an issue. I had received a couple letters of complaint from Annetta Barnacy in regards to an easement that she'd granted the town that, in her estimation, was being misused. As it turned out, apparently there were some people using it for, there'd been a load of sand dumped there, and which shouldn't have been there. It was kind of in the wrong place. Well, anyway, Mike had gone ahead and remedied that, and told us that everything was okay. And I will follow up with her to make sure that she's satisfied with the correction that's taken place. I did speak about an easement that we're trying to obtain from Tom Dahlback up on Colonial Street for a drainage problem that we're having north of his property between Colonial and Pinnacle. And there's some confusion about what property exactly we need access to, so John Deming was going to go and contact him and clear that up for us. Mike has created a paving list for 2014. It hasn't been finalized yet. He tells me that the contractor will be available around the end of the month, July 30th, in that range to start. And it was part of a resolution a couple months ago that went through, so you have a list. I am going to ask him to rethink some of the priorities, one of them which was the Shanahan Road, which is on the list, but we're also going to be having some heavy construction done at the airport, in which case it would be advisable to wait till after that was done before we pave that road. So I am going to talk to him about that. I also wanted to talk about the sidewalk district on Alexandria Avenue. And there's a question, I don't know, Tanya, if you can answer it. Are those people being assessed, is there a particular sidewalk district that takes in Alexandria Avenue? No, okay. All right, I didn't know, because that walk is in really bad shape. I did ask the superintendent for a sidewalk maintenance plan for the winter. Last year we had a number of issues with our sidewalk machine. It was broke down quite a bit. And I just want to know what his plan is going forward as far as what he's going to need. He did tell me that the machine they've got is not adequate. It doesn't operate quickly enough, and it is labor intensive. We have some safety concerns around it. He had looked into a trade-in for the unit where they would, a vendor would take it off our hands and get us into a used track-mounted unit. That fell through. So consequently, the price of a machine that they feel would do the job is $185,000 with one attachment. That's That's what
The attachment's in addition to the 185?
No, that, it's inclusive, the 185 is inclusive of the unit with one attachment.
Oh, that's good.
You know, I just said, we've got to find another way to address this other than just throwing money at it. As it turns out, they run 2 machines right now to deal with sidewalks, and then the quality of some of the work doesn't always stand up to what we need it to be. So we're going to continue to work on that in committee, and hopefully we'll have something positive to tell you before snow flies.
Just a suggestion.
Yep.
Maybe the town should look at privatization of the sidewalks.
And that is a
point of discussion for your committee.
That is an idea that's been kicked around. Again, it would have to originate with the highway superintendent, because that's on his MOS as far as the work that they do exclusively.
Okay, well, last year we had significant public safety issues with the sidewalks. Everybody's well aware of that. We had claims that came in and whatnot, and we certainly don't want to put the public in a safety sensitive area, regardless of where the responsibility for it lies.
I understand, and that's why I put it on the agenda for the middle of the summer. Hopefully we can get something resolved.
That's good. I would really want them to look at that. I'd ask Mr. Fuller if he'd want to research whether that has to come from Public Works or whether it can come from the town board.
Highway. That's my understanding of it, Matt. I'm not saying that's gospel, but let's look into it. That's a good idea. Mike had also expressed a wish that he would like to carry over $20,000 that he currently has budgeted for sidewalk repair in the 2014 budget and encumber it over to do a more major repair on the sidewalk from Lake George Avenue, from Snug Harbor Marine to Montcalm Street. The option, we did talk about using concrete versus asphalt, and again, that's still pretty much in flux. I'm going to find out about that Alexandria Avenue sidewalk from the middle school down to the baseball fields, because it's pulverized. I walked on it today. I mean, you can barely walk on it without stubbing your toe. I mean, the pieces are broke, and it's blacktop. That's why I wondered if it was on a part of a district that we have currently, because I vaguely recollect that they had done something like that.
Run that one by me again.
The sidewalk from the middle school down to the Catholic cemetery, that blacktop walk.
Is that public or is that school?
I don't know. That's why I was asking.
It's the towns, I believe.
It is the towns, but it is literally pulverized, and there's grass growing up through every crack. And I can remember forming some kind of a district from the middle school out to Alexandria
years ago,
but I didn't know if it was inclusive of.
Didn't that? I believe that district was shortly after the school was built, a long time ago. But it went west.
Right. It didn't come back this way.
It doesn't come back towards town. And I was almost under the thought that the paved unit from the middle school to the baseball field is owned by the school. That's why it's so far off the road.
They told me, no, this discussion came up a couple of years ago, and they said that that's the town's.
The school?
We'll look at it again.
Yeah.
The school said it was the town's?
Yeah.
Why does the school take care of it?
I don't know.
They don't plow that.
Well, it's wider. It's an 8-foot walk. I'd say it's 8 foot.
They don't plow until it's the very last thing. I think they wait for the school, for us to come and plow that. Because I drive my kid to school every day, and I see the kids walking in the road, because it's never plowed. But anyways, I'll look at that, but yeah.
And it absolutely needs to be raised on the priority list, and I'll take it back to committee and see what they do, what they want to do with it.
Well,
We may want to, if it is in fact the town's, we may want to change that out to the stone dust that we've been using in the park.
It's there now.
Yeah,
It's pulverized now.
Well, you can, if it was truly to the stone dust stage, that'd be one thing, because then we've got the drag box, we can put the drag box over it and straighten
let
it
me
up.
look at my process, let's see what there was something with that a couple of years ago.
I did ask Mike about what major purchases they're looking for in their 2015 budget. And it will be, he's looking to replace the 550 dump truck, and then, like I said, the sidewalk machine. Dave Woods did interject that he feels a multi-purpose tractor should be something the town should look into, something that could be used year-round. The chemical removal from the 2010 problem out there at the highway garage has been disposed of and taken care of. Mike is working on getting permits to haul the contaminated dirt out as part of our consent order. We're under from the DEC with our fuel oil spill at the highway garage, so that is ongoing. We do have some specific milestones in it. I read it today.
The new one?
The new one.
Yeah.
And there is some peg dates, very specific, and there's going to have to be test wells installed, which is, I don't think anyone anticipated that, but that they're going to have to be installed and then monitored for a specific, until sometime in 2016.
Well, that was part of AES's report from over the winter.
Right.
That should have been expected.
But anyway, he's got a plan to get the dirty dirt, he calls it the dirty dirt, out of the highway yard. Mike went on to tell the committee that the crews have been working hard to get ready for the 4th of July, and we thank everyone for that. There was a request came in by way of one of our members to change the highway meeting time from 12 noon to 5 p.m. There's a couple of people who have work schedules that they want to participate in the committee, but they can't participate because of their work. And I was okay with that. We did tentatively schedule it for 5 o'clock, in which case I heard back 2-3 days later from the highway superintendent that it would not work for him. That 1 o'clock was the latest that he could attend the meeting. So we're going to continue to work on that and see if we can't get that something tenable that'll work for everybody. But again, I think we ought to leave it for the noon schedule for next month, rather than jump it all over the map and confuse people, because there are people that might want to come and participate. So, and then Fred, you want to talk about the landfill? You want me to do it? Well, the report talks about the landfill. Fred Hunson raised the point of building a building up at the transfer station to house the electronics that could be recycled. We're going to look into that. Mike Perrin did talk about odor problems and vectors that need to be controlled at the transfer station, and they're going to work on that as well. Chatty Van Wert discussed the contract of Circle is up for renewal at the county level, and Bill Grinnell is on this committee at Essex County. Under old business, John Deming discussed the parking lot by the ARC, and we didn't know what we're obliged to do and under that agreement that was made, so we're going to continue to look into that and see where we got to go, what we got to do, if anything. We do send a delegate to the Essex County Highway Superintendent's meeting, and there will be no meetings in the summer months. Next highway meeting is July 29 at 12 noon.
So we're keeping it at 12 and not...
I think we should, Chatty, until we get some consensus. Bill's going to help me with that. We're going to work on that together and see if we can find something that works. That's all I got.
Yeah, it wouldn't have to actually be a wood building or something, even a portable structure, you know, whatever, tent, whatever, just to keep it dry and stuff.
Right now, being everything in the state of flux that it's in with the county, I think it's premature to go ahead with developing much of that. To speak to what's going on at the county right now, they're in very preliminary stages of trying to assess what direction they want to go in. Probably the most prominent thing that's come to my attention is that the town of North Elba does nothing with waste in regards to the way any other town in the county is acting. The town of North Elba has developed their own waste management operation. They have a broker to market their recyclables and waste. They have compaction, their own compaction equipment. They have their own some of their own transfer equipment. Some of it is transferred by independent contractors. It is a revenue stream that they have publicly stated at the county level they do not want to lose, whatever the county does. they plan on continuing in the direction that they're going in. It is a thought in my mind that there's already, I think, 5 or 6 towns that utilize North Elba now. And if North Elba is willing to share the wealth that's available through a proper landfill operation, I think the county, if North Elba has the capacity to handle the increased flow, I think the county would be well served by North Elba, and North Elba well served by the towns to work together and use them as our source to take our trash and convert it into dollars. And they can share some of the dollars with the towns and county and keep some of the dollars that they're earning because of the operation and capital investments that they've made. Hopefully that may work out.
So would the other towns bring all their trash to them?
Some of them do right now, yes.
Bloomingdale, Saranac Lake, St. Armand, various towns. Some of the ones in Franklin County come there too.
Yeah.
They have a C&D, an active C&D landfill. I mean, it's a state-of-the-art operation. They got digital video on every dump station, you know, all your cardboard, recycle and everything. They have one attendant that sits there and watches it like on a split screen kind of thing. Credit card machine, cash register.
So
Very sophisticated operation.
Yeah.
Well, we'd have longer, more, the transportation costs would be larger for us than,
Right now, our transportation costs are
so it'd be about
not
the
much
same.
more significant than they would be going to Lake Placid.
See, they had everything set up before. They had it all set up where the town had its own pull boxes, had its own truck. We had, you know, one of our operators, that's what they were hired to do, was to transport our own recycled material to brokers, you know, to sell it.
Yeah.
Back in, it's way back. Sounds like you're working on it. That's good.
That sounds good, yeah. Thank you.
You all done?
Yeah.
Okay. Good job. Human Services, and Youth and Seniors, Mr. Huntsman.
Okay. Thai Seniors meeting, June 18th. The meeting was called to order by Cora Bolt at 1 p.m. with a salute to the flag of our country. There were 16 members present. Whole business, one of the seniors asked if there was any news on transportation to the farmer's market. I reported it didn't look good. They would have to be a day cut out of the week, and some of the seniors didn't want that. The seniors also checked on using a school bus. That was not feasible. Another question was asked about the coupons. There was no word yet. Sandy Urban usually lets them know. New business. The acting president reminded the members there would be no meeting in July. Next meeting will be August 20th, where there will be a committee appointed to nominate names for president, vice president, secretary, to vote on at September's meeting. Excuse me. Activity report. The secretary is still working on contact information for the members in the case of emergency. July 25th is Camelot at Siegel Colony. Money is due by June 27th. July 19th is the way at the Deport Theater. Call reservations by June 25th or seats of our choice will not be available. Town report. I reported the possibility of changing from fuel oil to propane. Plan is to remove the oil tank and place it with a propane tank. We will lose one handicap parking space, but will not be under the DEC inspections every month. Excuse me again. Guest speaker, Eileen Brennan gave in-depth information on visual impairment. Eileen Brennan is a representative for the North Country Association for the Visually Impaired. Eileen reviewed problems facing the legal blind, cataracts, macular degeneration, glaucoma, discussing simple changes that often solve big problems and answered questions. Gave out handouts and left 3 catalogs for references. Adjourned at 2 p.m. Next meeting, August 20th, 2014 at 1 p.m. Ticonderoga Youth Meeting, excuse me, June 16th. Meeting was called to order at 5 p.m. Present was John Bartlett, Tanya Thompson, Helen Benedict, Chatty Van Wert, pardon me, Chatty, and Fred Hunston. Helen asked if we would meet in July and August. A continual monthly meeting will keep the committee abreast on what's going on in August. We need to start working on our winter programs. The committee was unanimous. The committee suggested we charge $10 for the first child. Let me back up on that. This is the summer program. The committee suggested we charge $10 for the first child, $7 for the second, $4 for the third, and $1 for each child after. This way, big families may be able to afford sending their children to the summer program.
Could I have a question? How many people do we have? How many children do we have signed up for the summer program?
Close to 80 right now.
Thank you.
I got a few resolutions here, 3 I believe. We need to advertise for the recreational director for the ski program.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
To advertise for the soccer program, is it
Recreational director.
recreational director? Yes, I'm sorry. Couldn't quite get that out.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I thought you said there was 3 times.
I thought there was,
Okay. All righty, next meeting will be July 14th, adjourned at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you. Public safety. Again, Dave isn't here. You want to take that one, Chief?
If you'd like me to.
Or maybe Mr. Fuller would.
Whatever you like. You have something for you.
We had a very interesting public safety meeting that involved the right to enter law for our building inspector that has been called 14 other names and wound up with actually adding one sentence to
3 words.
3 words in the form of a sentence to a law that's been discussed for 3 years.
9 words.
And we had a law that was
Can you explain it?
adopted by the committee, and we'll let Mr. Fuller grace you with his definition of what we got.
So what we're going to do is, instead of going through certificate of occupancy and those kinds of things, the end of the discussion was that what we were really looking for is fire safety and property maintenance inspections. that really cut to the heart of it. So those are in section 11 of local law 3 of 2007. And in particular, 11A3, A3, right now it says fire safety and property maintenance inspections of all multiple dwellings not included, and all non-residential building structures, uses, and occupancies not included above shall be performed at least once every 36 months. What we're going to do is we're going to have this say, fire safety and property maintenance inspections of all multiple dwellings and all non-owner occupied 1 and 2 family dwellings not included in paragraphs 1 or 2 of this subdivision, and they deal with commercial properties and things like that. And all non-residential building structures, uses, and occupancies not included in paragraphs 1 or 2 of this subdivision shall be performed at least once every 36 months. And that will accomplish the task.
Now, we'll need a public hearing on that?
So we can have just a simple resolution to set the public hearing.
And so what are the 3 words that were changed again?
It's actually 9 words. I apologize. It previously said inspections of all multiple dwellings. That's 3. Multiple dwellings is 3 or more. When we got to the heart of the discussion, what we were trying to do is get inspections of non-owner occupied 1 or 2 family dwellings. So what we've done is said, instead of it saying all multiple dwellings, it says all multiple dwellings and all non-owner occupied 1 and 2 family dwellings. So if you have a single family dwelling that you're renting, you get an inspection at least once every 36 months. So that could be once every 12 months, it could be once every 24 months, but it's at least once every 36 months.
Could be once a week.
Could be once a week.
It gives the codes people the right to enter.
So how did you come up with this two family dwellings?
Because multiple family dwellings are already in there.
And that's 3 in both?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were already subject to it.
So 3 years later?
So if you want to set a public hearing?
Could we set a public hearing for
The next town board meeting at
next?
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do you want copies of this now, or want me to just email it to you? Because I just caught up. I missed my day, 11:83.
Better email it then.
Yeah.
You'll get it to me tomorrow.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Matt, does the fee schedule have to be attached and made part of the local law? The fee schedule for the inspections?
No, you do that by resolution, don't you?
Yes.
We don't have a specific,
Typically.
yeah, in section 16, fee schedule established by the resolution of the town board and changed from time to time.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And that was about the sum total of, no, go ahead.
70 minutes? 80 minutes of discussion?
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Anything you want to add, public safety?
The police report was mostly just updating the committee on the staffing level of the police department, that we are at almost full staffing, just 1 officer down. We welcomed Officer Jamir, Officer Kilcullen, and Record Clerk Courtney Kraft came over and met the committee that day. And we just updated the committee. I did have at that point 1 officer out on family medical leave at that point, but he has since returned. So we're back to smooth operations of the police department. And that's making our report to the committee.
Chief, I'm going to ask you something about a request for a part-time training school. Again, I don't know if it's something that, I know typically either Zone 9 in Plattsburgh or Zone 5 in Schenectady coordinate a training school. And the reason I'm going to raise this, I've been approached by a number of members of the community that have expressed an interest in becoming part-time police officers. And I'm told, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm told that the part-time training school involves 2 nights a week and then one Saturday a month, or something of that nature?
That is correct. If a local municipality, and there's the possibility that Fort Edward or Fort Ann may offer a school in late summer or early fall,
Okay.
a part-time police academy.
Yeah.
Before that. Fort Edward.
Yeah.
That tends to be all day on Saturday and for about 4 or 5 hours in the evening during the week.
Yeah.
New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services requires, regardless of whether you're employed as a full-time officer or a part-time officer, you require the same number of hours training. That being said, it just takes longer to get through part-time school than if we sent you 40 hours a week to a full-time academy in Plattsburgh. The big hindrance with the part-time academy and part-time officers is the cost benefit realized by the town. Under the current union, and we've gone through a grievance probably about 25 years ago where we sent officers, we didn't pay them when they were going to the police academy. Those officers filed a grievance and were able to get their salaries back. The union still has that same opinion that if we sponsor someone in a police academy, then we have to pay them their hourly wage when they're in the academy. That employee that we pay for 550 hours, I believe, is the current training standard for a police officer, plus their travel time to get to that academy 3 days a week, only creates a non-competitive part-time employee. The cost benefit is normally greater if you're going to make that investment in an employee, turning that into a full-time employee.
See, and the reason I raise it, Mark, is I point to the history on it. You know, we have one officer right now that started as a part-time officer 30 plus years ago and is still functioning in a court security function. I mean, the town is still realizing a return on that investment. I know that Chief Cook started as a part-time officer, Officer Whitford, you know, Stan Cobb, George Bazette. There was a whole number of them that went through at about the same time that were able to augment our force of full-time officers, but still were here for the long term. They weren't looking for career advancements, and, you know, they were here to provide security for the town, and it would make sense, looking long-term viability of the Ticonderoga Police Department, to have a core group of full-time officers and then a group of committed part-timers that you could go to level, you know, trim things out when you needed extra help or whatever. And again, they aren't looking to migrate here or there, or, you know, they're here and they've expressed an interest and would like to participate. And it's just a thought. I mean, the part-time school isn't going to happen unless you request it. That had always been my impression. I don't know.
I believe they are going to have one. It's just a matter of enrolling officers in it. That's another conversation that this board would have to talk about, is the budgetary aspect of that. This year it's going to be a very tight budget where, because of some benefit time needed to be paid to the officers that left us, I wouldn't have money in my budget. It would have to be pulled from somewhere else if this board did choose to sponsor any part-time employees.
Even with the vacancy that you have now, there wouldn't be anything additional?
Because we're not minimizing any of the services, we're eating into the upper salary in the budget. That vacant salary is covering the slack that is created by having vacancies.
Okay.
We're just transferring his salary over to the overtime and part-time budget is how we're compensating the budget right now.
Okay.
The outcome of the way it is right now is we aren't having to pay for the part-timers because they've already been, you know, they've had their training and whatnot, correct?
Right.
So actually, this would be an added cost.
This would be additional people that you could call on to help you when you needed them.
But it'd also be an added cost.
It would be, well, depending on what the budget situation is. I'm not on the committee, it was just an idea, and like I said, it worked before. You know, I look at that picture that was on the community building that showed the full-time officers and all those part-timers, Lee Pocket, Art Ryan, I mean, there was a whole litany of them. And they worked for many years to fill in and helped keep.
So if that would, if spending the money on training these new people.
Mhm.
Is that there would that in the long run save the town money on overtime? That was from when people are sick or on vacation? That would be the big savings.
That would be
right?
at the chief's discretion to use them where he needed them, but it would be, that's typically the way they've been used. They've been used to keep the cost down. Correct me, Bill?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but aren't we contractually obligated now to utilize our regular full-time staff most of the time in overtime situations and that type of thing?
I have a little bit of leeway with the union with working with them. If it is a sick day or a personal leave day that pops up within a 1-week time frame, then I do put it out, I'm required to put it out to full-time officer overtime. If someone requests a vacation 3 weeks down the road, then I do have the leeway to schedule
Bring in a
a part-time officer to cover that vacancy.
Okay. Here's an idea. Like I said, it's something that might, the attrition rate is huge and, you know,
Certainly worth looking at.
And at our next committee meeting, if you're available,
I will be there, Chief.
Really, there's some other options that these individuals have that I will educate you on committee level, but that being that there are certain community colleges throughout the state that give you pretty much 90% of your police academy training. And that's something that these candidates, we're not sponsoring them for that last 10% of their training, their supervised field training, is the point when we sponsor them and get them up to speed. But there are other ways to get these candidates, and if you're looking to add a part-timer or two. But my staff right now of 6, especially with Officer Kilcullen, he's ambitious and he wants to work for us as much as his retirement allows. And I do have Officer Banish and Officer Ruby are still helping me out whenever I need to shifts.
Did, as far as the posting that went in the paper for the police officers, did it include part-time or is it just full-time only?
No, at that point, when we put the posting in the newspaper, we were still down with 2 officers before our last hire at the mid-month meeting. We were only interested in receiving fully trained applicants for full-time.
Right. Okay. Very good. I'll be at the committee meeting. Good. Thank you.
We've got library, cable TV next. We've covered the library pretty well.
Yeah.
We covered the TV pretty well. Anything you want to add?
Thank you, Jay. No. Thank you, Jay.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay.
The only thing I'd like to say about the library is that they've added a lot of new children's programs for the summer. So if anybody has, your kids are out of school or you have grandchildren visiting, I'd say consider contacting the library to see what programs they have available for kids during the day. There's really a lot of exciting things going on. And that also was going to be sent to Heath to be put on Thai TV. So anyway, it should be fun for kids this summer.
Okay. We are continuing negotiations with Time Warner about the lease agreement. We heard from them today. Being that it's negotiations, I think we should reserve that for executive session.
Sure.
Okay. Insurance committee?
Yeah, we did meet June 18th with myself, Fred, Rich Diedrichs, who used his Mark Crawford of Burnham Associates, was there. He didn't have much good to report to us. He did say there were going to be some new reporting required in 2015 to the Internal Revenue Service, and the items to be reported will include the monthly premium for lowest cost plan, the employee cost share of the premium, the number of full-time eligible employees during each month, name, address, and social security number of each eligible employee. He theorized that this is a precursor to taxation of health benefits. That was what he told us. It wasn't a comforting session. He did say that the employer size is going to be, currently, right now, we are considered a small employer, but they said they're going to change the metrics so that employers will be required to convert all part-time hours to full-time equivalents. So in which case it might bump up our number and make us subject to a bunch of other requirements. Right now, we can avoid the federal penalties by limiting new hire waiting period to 90 days, offer health insurance to all full-time employees who work 30-plus hours a week, maintain qualified level of health insurance coverage, and again, that's subject to the Health and Human Services definitions and interpretation, offer affordable insurance to the employees, and they consider affordable to be the employee coverage cost is less than 9.5% of their W-2 wage, and the maximum allowed for a $10 an hour employee would be $165 a month employee share. So that's where it's going. We are looking at community rating for groups up to 100 in 2016. The town of Ticonderoga is currently considered experience rated, but will change back to community rating in 2016. They are going to implement what's considered a 40% Cadillac health plan, a 40% surtax on Cadillac health plans, which involve $10,200 to $27,000 per year. And they said, given the current rate of medical inflation, our insurance coverages could be considered under this plan, this tax. There is speculation within the industry that the unions will push back for this mandate to be repealed. Other topics for discussion, the town did have an Excellus wellness component, Blue for You benefit that we offered the employees. We did have 18 people participate, and it was a very worthwhile endeavor. It was at no cost to the employees and involved a 5-panel blood test. It was done on a Saturday in non-working hours, and it was well received. We had 23 people show up or sign up, but actually 18 actually did participate. They will next time offer the program and will do the blood draw at Moses Ludington Hospital. That's what I've been told. There were it was good feedback. There was an employee who asked if the age 26 requirement was going to increase to age 29, and Mark was asked to explain. Currently, under the Affordable Care Act, the eligible children can be included on their parents' policy till they're age 26, and a rider can be added to the health insurance policy, changing the age limit to 29, but this will come with a premium increase of approximately 2%. The committee does not foresee this being an option for the town due to the significant cost increase. Currently, the June renewals of our insurance plans like ours here at the town are coming in at a plus 13.1%. There will be a new health reimbursement account excise tax. And again, it's considered as being called a Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute fee. No?
For a health savings account?
For a health savings account. And right now, initially, it's $2 per year per covered individual. So, however many people are covered under your health savings account, you can do the math. So anyway, we'll keep you posted, but like I said, it's looking at a plus 13 for budgets, and their June renewals, that's what they came in at.
Plus 13.
Plus 13.1.
Did you ever wonder if they read about 2% tax caps and whatnot?
They don't have those.
It's just different ways to. I don't know. You got any more good news?
No.
Okay.
That was enough.
Under contract negotiations, we are still negotiating with water and sewer. We have had a round on by email rather than hold a formal session, and when we get to executive session, I'll explain to you where that is. Reports of department heads. We'll start with the attorney.
We dealt with the CO law.
No, we dealt with the entry law.
Yeah, the entry law. Code enforcement matters, the Portage property. We had sent that notice last month. Have we received any response or acceptable response from them?
There was a response rumored that there was an interest in possibly trying to renovate the structure, but there's been no action taken, and I feel it would be in the town's best interest to refine the order with a letter that states that they must have an acceptable plan within whatever time frame.
You want to say by your month-end meeting?
Yeah, that's plenty.
Do you have to tell them what an acceptable plan is? Is it something drawn on the back of a napkin, or?
Yeah, probably not. We have to have an acceptable proposal going forward that is, we'll let the word whisperer get into that one a little bit, but it needs, there's been an indication that they might try and take part of the structure down and repair part of the structure. No one knows if it's even structurally feasible, and nothing has been done at this point in time, to my knowledge, to head in that direction to determine whether it's structurally feasible.
How long has that structure been sitting there?
Years.
Is it 5 years?
That burned last year. It's just been one winter it's been through.
Yeah, it was 12.
Yeah.
Oh, 12?
It's only had one winter.
Okay.
And then 13, and then now in the 14.
Yeah, it burned in October.
12.
Okay. Yeah. It's a little over a year and a half.
Okay. So we'll send that out. The other thing that I had forgotten from the public safety meeting that we talked about was intercepting insurance. One of the ways to deal with these properties is to insert the town in the insurance process between like a mortgagee, a bank, and the property owner. And Bill had asked us to research that, and I did find that. I didn't get just going to get the local law done today. But I did get one, though. All I got to do is swap out, put in tie, and I'll get it up to you for next month that you can take a look at. Do you want to send it to public safety first, or do you want to bring it here?
Get it up to me, and then we'll decide where we're going to take it first.
Sounds good. Shouldn't be that much of a heavy lift, but there's actually a provision in the insurance law that allows this. So it's statutory that we can step into the process.
Excellent.
So it wouldn't be retroactive, it would
No.
be when somebody buys a property?
It would be going forward. It would be any fires after the notice.
The date it's adopted.
Oh, any fires after, so if my house burned tomorrow,
You're still safe because it hasn't been enacted. If it burns the day after we enact the law, then we have leverage.
And of course, we've been busy on the water project and the GID stuff. And all those notices got sent out. We've gotten some responses back so far under seeker for the daylighting project. So that's moving forward. I have been emailing back and forth with Doug on the bond stuff and things like that. So my thought is we're probably going to have some stuff for the month-end meeting that I'll get up here for that.
That's my thought.
Yeah. So we'll be, knock on wood, we should be in good shape to head forward on that. And the well, we're working, actually, you probably saw me over here reviewing a stack of documents on that issue with the broken well.
Is it likely to go into court? I mean, the way it sounds, they're
I'll
posture.
comment on that.
You won't, okay.
Yep.
Is that it?
That's it.
Chief Johns.
Okay, just two things.
We covered part of it.
The first one I had was, I just wanted to express thanks to all members of the fire department and other volunteers, including one of our town council persons who assisted on the 4th of July traffic details. The event on the 4th of July went very smooth like it normally does, and we wouldn't be able to do it without the help of the fire department and volunteers like Councilman Hunston, so thank you very much for that. The only other thing I had, myself, Councilman Huntston, and Supervisor Cornell sit on the Community Coalition, Ticonderoga Neighbors Addressing Drug Abuse. The coalition asked me to come to the town board and just talk to you about the event that we will be hosting on Tuesday, August 12th at 7 o'clock p.m. at North Country Community College. This is going to be a community forum where we're inviting the public in, and we're going to assemble a panel of experts to talk about the heroin problems and prescription drug abuse problems in the local area. This panel of experts is going to include a doctor, a pharmacist. It's going to have Christy Sprague of the District Attorney's Office, members of law enforcement, who will explain a little bit about the scope of the problem is in the community and what everyone's position is. And what's more valuable is just the ability for members of the community to ask questions or express concerns that they have about these issues. In front of you and in the back of the room, I did also provide you with some information on the coalition, the mission statement, the vision statement, and just our regular monthly meetings. But I hope that everyone can attend the community forum on August 12th at 7 o'clock p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need anything from me in an executive or you?
No.
Oh.
I think we're good.
Was there something about supplying a little money or something?
When I looked at the cost, I think that I'm budgeted for it in my books and supplements line item. If I'm going over for those pamphlets, I'll try to use some of the forfeiture money, but I think I'm all set.
I knew it was brought up, that's why I thought I'd just mention it.
So, one of the things I was thinking is you have a nice format here. Maybe that's something else that you could, certainly the date of this should go to Matt Courtright so that can go on the community calendar if it isn't there already.
I'll talk to Mr. Turby tomorrow and I'll make sure that he does touch base. I know he's been communicating, we took out an ad in the 250th brochure, and we're going to have a table at the Street Fest event also, 550
Matt keeps the calendar, so that'll, again, the chamber maintains that calendar, and then that'll go on to Heat, and that would be a good thing to put on Thai TV, I think. Maybe something brief that could explain the event, and that might help get more people to attend as well.
Absolutely, and I will get something to him in very short time.
Okay, and that's again August 12th at what time again?
7 o'clock p.m.
7 p.m.
North Country Community.
That's around
Thank you.
coming in from the parking side.
Correct.
Doug brought that up, that he's supposed to talk with Matt about this, and I think Matt was going to help him with some stuff. He's already talked to him about it from what I remember.
Okay, and we'll have some ads in the paper. It will be a well-publicized event,
Right.
and really, I expect a good turnout for that.
Good. You've been working on this this group has been meeting for a year, right?
Yeah, we're approaching our 1-year mark, and we're getting a lot of groundwork done. Really, when you form a coalition, it's a lot of work just coming up with what your mission is, what your vision is, examining the problem, seeing what the issue in the community is, and really, we've narrowed it down that the most serious issues in the community are prescription drug abuse, and that also involves some heroin abuse. It's nothing that is just Ticonderoga. If you read Post-Star, they're going through the same problems in Glens Falls area, and there's a great series of articles in that paper just about the issues that many rural communities are having with this prescription drug abuse and heroin abuse lately.
And there's room for more members if any of the board, other than Fred and I, would like to volunteer. We'd love to have you there.
Well, I went to a couple of meetings. I just get meetinged out after a while. So if there's something, that I could do
And actually, when we're talking about the Coalition of the Future, we're looking for diehard members that are there every month, but we're also looking for members that will join our coalition when we have special projects or you have expertises that could help us, that you don't necessarily have to attend a meeting every month, but just you're a resource for us to draw upon when we have something that we could really use some help on. So we'd be happy to consider you one of our members of that. Auxiliary members. That's it. There you go.
Well, I think you're doing a great thing. I really encourage you, and we really need it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I don't see anything. Yeah, town clerk.
Thanks, Mark. I'm always passed over. I do have a couple of things. We are going to have a vacancy on the Board of Assessment Review because Steve Dunn, his term will be over at the end of September, but he would like to be reappointed. So if the board would like to entertain that, I need a resolution to reappoint him to the Board of Assessment Review. He's been on there for a couple of terms now. He's very knowledgeable about what he's doing.
I would move that.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Where's this?
Steve Dunn.
Steve Dunn.
He's doing a good job.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I have a resolution that has to be brought forward for the standard workday and reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials, and this is for the town supervisor, town council person, Wayne Taylor and Dave Luliano, and the town assessor, Patty Osher. This is something that has to be done every year specifically for some, I don't get the gist of it, it comes out of our personnel office. So we need to do the reporting days for Bill Brunel, Wayne Taylor, Dave Luliano, and Patty Osher. And Chatty and myself.
What's that again?
It's the standard workday and reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials for retirement.
Yeah, it's what everybody had to fill out the first 3 months
Those 3-month calendars, it has to be now recorded by our personnel office.
to show that you were working at least a few minutes a day.
So now you have to do it for more than the first, like I did it for January, February, and March.
No,
this is a report.
This is following up on what you've already done.
Oh.
This now has to be reported to the state.
It has to be posted on the board.
And it gets posted on the board so
Oh.
everybody can see how little you work.
So, I'm not approving.
You're retired already, aren't you, Brad? If you're on state retirement already, you're not included.
Not the state, no.
You're not on state?
I got, I get Social Security.
Okay.
But,
So do I. How come you're doing it to me? That's not fair.
Because have you ever been a public employee before?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that would,
Not everybody. At one point, you're all.
Yes.
I think it's because I'm
It's
full-time.
done annually, but I think they pick.
I think if you're full-time, you have to do it.
Well, every one of you will get reported.
Yes.
You'll end up on that list at
At
some point in your
in
term.
time, it comes out.
No question.
but I already did it for January, February, March, so I don't have to do it.
You don't have to do anything. This is just passing the
This
resolution
is
of what
just-
you've already done.
Oh, okay.
To submit it to
All you gotta do is be embarrassed about how little you work those first years.
I had a hard time
I agree.
fitting all that into those little squares they give.
Yeah, I know. I agree. We have a resolution?
I'll move it.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, any discussion further?
You sure there were?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, surplus bids. You all have a list of the high bidder on each item, except for the 275-gallon fuel tanks. I had to get clarification on one of them. So Jared French should be on there for one tank at $50, and then the next bidder for a second tank will be Robert Crammond for $30. And there was a tie between the steel cutoff saw, and Derek Flurry's willing to dry his electric canal, have that. So you guys need to decide if we're going to award these bids as they said. I can read them all if you'd like.
Was everyone copied on it, all the department heads, Tanya? I mean, they've had opportunity to comment, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I heard nothing.
Okay. Can we award them in mass, or we got to make a resolution for each one?
No, we can award them as, I can read them individually, they're all gonna be right in the minutes anyhow, what the bids are on them.
Do we award them
They
or accept them? I think it would be an exception. We're accepting it.
So besides the two I just told you about the 275 gallon fuel tanks, which I will be adding, the one at the $50 and one at $30. It'll be as it stands with Rick getting the
Cut
cuts
off,
off.
yeah.
If you would like to
I would entertain a motion to accept the bids.
You think they're sufficient?
I think they're as good as we're gonna get.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And then you have some interfund advances. Do you want me to run through them, or do you want to do them?
You can do that. You can read them just as well as I can.
So, resolution to adopt the following interfund advances per general municipal law 9A for abstract 7 of 2014. The first is from general to John Street Sewer Stormwater Separation Project, CD 17, for $2,209.02. Funds will be reimbursed with grant monies. Second is from general to Capital Project Central Sewer Improvements, age 23, $45,135.64. Funds will be reimbursed with EFC long-term financing. The third is from general to the GIGP Stormwater Management, age 41. Funds will be reimbursed with grant monies. And the fourth is from general to GIGP Daylight Screening Grant, age 49, for $2,158.89. Those funds will be reimbursed with grant monies also.
Question. We need a motion first. Motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
I'll second it.
Question on number 3, there's no amount.
Oh, thank you.
Can't remember.
We can do the 3, and that can be done at your financial meeting.
Can it wait for the financial?
Okay. So we can do 1, 2, and 4, and we'll wait to do number 3 at the financial meeting.
Would you like to change your motion? Withdraw it?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Now, these are grants that we know have been approved.
Yes.
Not grants that we think we're going to
No.
be approved.
They're already there, we're just waiting for the reimbursement.
And how about the long-term financing? Is that already in place, or is that something that we have to go to EFC for?
No, it's already in place.
It's there.
If they get it all bundled up, then they do their, finalize it
Yep.
on the capital project down the sewer plant.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, that's it for me.
That's it? I have very little left. Chatty just wiped us all out tonight. The one that I have is we have 2 trees in the Street Road Cemetery that are threatening the fence and several gravestones. They're old box alders. They are not in real good shape. We recently had one that was on the neighbor's property that went down, knocked over 2 or 3 gravestones, broke the fence, and beautification has fixed all that, cleaned it up. And the neighbor actually had Diedrich Tree Service come in and clean up the tree because it was one of these. Because of the 2 that are on our property, we had Diedrich give us a quote on it for the Street Road property is $1,600 to take down the 2 trees. I would suggest that we do it. The next storm could be the one that gets them. If they're going to do more damage than the last one did, obviously, and they're not very healthy. And it's $1,600. He cleans it up. He chips it. He takes it down, chips it, does everything but the stumps, and the stumps shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that for $1,600, we get it done. I believe there's money in the sextant's budget to cover it.
Okay.
And so this one right here is for one tree at Mount Hope. And you-
That's different, I'm gonna
That's
talk
different.
about that one next.
And so this
But
one.
I'd like, I'd like a resolution for the one to take down the 2 trees. Have Diedrich's Tree Service take down the 2 trees at Street Road Cemetery.
Street Road Cemetery.
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The second tree issue is at Mount Hope Cemetery, near the road. And there seems to be, it was brought to our attention by a neighbor, and there seems to be some question about ownership of the tree. And I almost think that the neighbor may own this tree, not the town, in which case it would be the neighbor's interest to remove it, and not the town's.
What's the problem, tree?
Yeah.
What's wrong with it?
It's leaning and it's dead. And it could impact the cemetery if it goes down. But the stump is pretty clearly, it leans over the cemetery, but the stump is pretty clearly on the neighboring property.
On the uphill side?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
There used to be a fence, there was a pretty pronounced, there was a fence line.
Yeah,
It was very,
yeah,
well, discernible.
that's correct. So I think we need to have, maybe I need to talk to the neighbor.
Investigate before you wait.
Unless I can get Tanya to do it. Before we move forward with that one, I don't think we need to. I have another item. There's a group of people in the town that are most interested in getting the old mill B dam removed. It's an eyesore. It, at various times of the year, does hold enough water to be a concern downstream, and we are moving forward with the DEC, NL Green Power of North America, which is our hydro people. We own it jointly with them, and we're trying to work through the details of that to see if we can't get it moving, but it is finally recognized by DEC that we want to do this, and it's underway. One other issue that's come up recently is the staffing at the sewer and water plant. Right now, in the wastewater treatment plant, we're staffed with a chief, 2 deputy operators, 1 MEO, and a maintenance clerk, or a maintenance person. The maintenance person was actually hired as a MEO/maintenance, and the MEO is actually working as an MEO/maintenance. They're on the same pay grade, the whole thing, and we're just, from a CSEA point of view and a job description point of view, to cover ourselves, we're investigating the MEO/maintenance title, and we may move them both to that joint title. I just want the board to be aware of it.
So we have 2 people in that title, and we all.
Yes, we would have, instead of having 1 MEO and 1 maintenance, we would have 2 MEO/maintenance, which means we would have 2 equipment operators, 2 truck drivers, which
So there'd be
is the
more
way,
flexibility and.
it was the intent of the hiring and staffing to have it that way, and however it got fouled up, and we're attempting to clear that up and make it a more flexible and workable situation. It'll help the efficiency of that group. Ann, have you got anything you want to bring up?
I do.
Okay.
I think I heard you say you were in the process of negotiating with the cable people.
Yes.
In view of what Chad brought up and all the nice stuff that's going to be on Channel 17, I take it.
Yes.
I've heard several of my seniors say that this is the standard, the basic, and Channel 17 isn't on that.
What? They took it off? That's going to come right into our negotiations.
Thank you.
Oh, good comment.
Thank you for pointing that out. I wasn't aware of that. I'm glad you brought that up. Sincerely. We will get that straightened out.
Thank you. I know some of the seniors have mentioned they missed it.
I'm sure they do.
Who wouldn't want to see these meetings?
Anything else?
Yeah, there's one thing, we got to put some oil in that chair.
I've been thinking that. I already talked with Mr. Taylor about that. He likes it. Makes him think of his grandma's old rocker.
Yeah, I'll be having the WD down here tomorrow.
Good girl. Thank you.
Okay, that being the case, we do have some negotiation and litigation issues that we need to discuss in executive session.
And we'll be adjourned to executive session to discuss contract and litigation issues.
I'll make a motion.
Well, we got a motion, we'd probably take a second though.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.